Chapter 1, Reborn. Before the Great Famine, I decisively sold my spatial jade bracelet to a fence for a pittance. In my past life, the educated youth Hubert I adored had blackmailed me into marriage, then took my heirloom bracelet as dowry to gift his white moonlight Lilith. During the subsequent 5-year famine, Lilith and Hubert lived in luxury while feasting on delicacies. Meanwhile, kept in the dark, I dared only eat half a course pancake daily. Toiling like an ox to maintain the entire household, whenever I was exhausted, Hubert would gently cradle me in his arms. "Dove, once we survive this famine, I'll treat you right. If you're truly tired, just rest. It's all my fault for being useless." With tears of gratitude in my eyes, I kept pushing through as the family's unpaid caretaker. In the final year of the famine, I was reduced to skin and bones. On my deathbed, I begged Hubert to let me eat a whole piece of bread. Yet he just held Lilith and looked down at me with contempt. "Dove, if Lilith hadn't wanted your bracelet back then, I'd never have married you. For years of keeping you fed, I owe you nothing now." With that, he had Lilith bring out a plate of fragrant roasted chicken, then casually tossed it to the ground and trampled it into the dirt without a second thought. "You probably don't realize this jade bracelet holds extraordinary powers. But look at yourself. Are you even worthy?" A metallic taste filled my throat as I spat blood, finally realizing my own stupidity when I saw the disgust in their eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I'd traveled back to the day before Hubert arrogantly demanded my jade bracelet. Seeing the intact bracelet on my wrist, I pinched my thigh hard to test reality. Tears sprang to my eyes from the sharp pain, yet I burst out laughing with joy. I'd truly been reborn, returned to the eve of Hubert's attempt to claim my spatial jade bracelet. I quickly wrapped the jade bracelet in cloth and headed to town to find a reseller. "A penny for it. Take it or leave it." The peddler's eyes lit up the moment he saw the jade's translucency. "Deal, deal, deal." After selling the spatial jade bracelet for a penny, I seized the chance to take a bag of unwanted bean seed bracelets he discarded. All 100 of them were stashed away in every nook and cranny of my home. In my past life, Hubert took my family heirloom jade bracelet as a dowry gift, claiming it was my bridal offering on the condition he'd marry me. Back then, he thumped his chest and vowed to me, "Dove, I can't afford a single penny for the bride price right now, but I swear I'll give you a good life someday." 1 month into our marriage, famine struck. My anxiety grew as I watched our dwindling food supplies. Then Hubert brought his childhood sweetheart Lilith into our home, insisting, "Many hands make light work," and that we'd pull through together. I clenched my teeth and nodded reluctantly at the half-sack of rice bran in Lilith's hands. When the famine began, our family's food supply ran out first. I divided 2-course pancakes into 3 portions, surviving an entire day on the smallest half-piece washed down with water. Later, every edible wild plant on the mountains was dug up, even tree bark, leaves, and tender shoots were stripped bare. I fought tooth and nail daily for a few measly greens, boiling them into gruel at home yet barely allowing myself a sip. After years of endurance, my belly swollen with hunger-suppressing clay, I finally reached my breaking point. As death loomed near, I begged Hubert for a whole pancake, but he just chuckled, holding Lilith while looking down at me with contempt. "Dove, look at the state you're in. TSK, 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 want some pancakes?" He pulled out a steaming egg pancake, its aroma wafting right under my nose. So strong I thought I might be hallucinating. After 4 years of famine, even pig feed became a hot commodity, let alone this egg pancake. I swallowed hard and reached for it, only to watch helplessly as Hubert tossed the pancake into the cesspit. The next moment, a mouth-watering roast chicken appeared. Hubert smirked before throwing it into the mud and stomping it to pulp. I stared at him in confusion, utterly baffled by his actions. "Are you wondering why I'm wasting food like this?" He burst into laughter. "You probably don't realize the magical power of that jade bracelet of yours, but look at yourself. Do you even deserve it?" I couldn't understand what he was saying. Just then, Lilith smiled, took my hand, and led me into a wondrous space. Endless stretches of fertile black soil yield bountiful crops of dizzying variety, bordered by streams, mountains, and even homesteads. Lilith led me to a warehouse where mountains of rice sacks towered before my eyes, making my heart pound uncontrollably. "Oh Dove, my dear Dove, do Hubert and I look like we're short of provisions to you? Those wild vegetables and coarse rice you scavenged, even pigs would turn up their snouts at them, but brother Hubert hates waste, so we tossed it all in the outhouse for fertilizer." My body froze, blood turning to ice in my veins. Emerging from the void. Hubert and Lilith kept flaunting their lavish lifestyle over the years, until I finally coughed up blood, literally dying from sheer rage, years of toil reduced to a cruel joke. Given a second chance, I'll never repeat those mistakes. The next day, Hubert came knocking just like in my past life. Dove, I know you're smitten with me, I'd gladly marry you. Just hand over that bracelet. His words trailed off as he froze, staring at my bare wrist. Wait, where's the bracelet? I shrugged and gave a nonchalant smile. Threw it in the cesspool. Threw it in the cesspool. No way, Dove, you're pulling my leg, right? Hubert grabbed my hand in panic, and I cried out in pain. I mercilessly shook off his hand, leaving Hubert frozen in place as he stared at my icy demeanor. The old me used to adore him, gazing at him with pure delight. Now nothing but disgust remains in my eyes. That worthless bracelet my mother left me ended up in the damn cesspool before I knew it. If I'm not even worried about my family heirloom, why the hell are you so worked up? Hubert was at a loss for words and shuffled away awkwardly. I knew he wouldn't believe me, nor would he let this matter rest. During the day, I went about my usual routine of earning work points, while Hubert watched longingly from the neighboring field. I paid him no mind and kept to my own tasks, seeing no other choice. Hubert took the initiative to strike up a conversation with me. Dove, have you had breakfast? Villagers didn't follow the 3 meals a day routine, just lunch and dinner. Only city-educated youths could afford the luxury of breakfast. His overly attentive manner made me uncomfortable. I kept silent and focused on my work. The female-educated youth working in the nearby field saw my attitude and grumbled indignantly. That Dove sure has skills, making brother Hubert initiate conversation with her. Who knows where she learned these playing hard to get tricks? She didn't even reply to brother Hubert. If only I could be so lucky. My eyes darkened. This is no blessing, it's sugar-coated arsenic. Back home, I casually slipped on a beaded bracelet and headed to the kitchen to whip up a bowl of noodles. Just as the noodles were ready, a knock came at the door. It was Hubert, holding a metal lunchbox that revealed a steaming bowl of braised pork belly when opened. Dove, I figured you hadn't eaten breakfast, so I brought you some braised pork. I pressed my lips together, keeping a straight face. Thanks, but I'm good. Hubert flushed with embarrassment when I declined. Dove, I went out of my way to bring you food, and you're actually turning me down. Do you even still want to marry me or not? I took a step back and shook my head. No. Hubert lost his temper, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Dove, I know you're dying to marry me. Why bother lying about it? All I wanted was your jade bracelet. Did you really have to be so guarded against me? The way she lost her temper was identical to her past life, making me instinctively shrink back. In my previous life, I'd certainly suspected something between Hubert and Lilith. Those lingering glances between them spoke volumes. But every time I tried to bring it up, Hubert would cut me off. He kept a stony silence, waiting for me to second-guess myself and apologize to him first. He was moody with me, yet always all smiles for Lilith. How could I not read into that? I looked up at him and enunciated slowly. It's not that I'm hiding it from you. The bracelet actually fell into the cesspit. If you really want it, go fish it out of the shit pit yourself. I slammed the door shut without another glance at Hubert's livid face. Just as I heaved a sigh of relief, I suddenly met Lilith's beaming eyes. Frozen in place, she yanked up my sleeve and calmly pointed at my bracelet. Lost it? Then what's this on your wrist? I yanked my hand back with forced determination, a flicker of guilt flashing in my eyes. That's my bracelet. Lilith chuckled dismissively. Didn't you say your jade bracelet was lost ages ago? Then the one on your wrist must be mine. Dove, we've never had any beef between us. Why would you steal my family heirloom jade bracelet? Lilith's final words came out in a shout. Hearing this, Hubert kicked the door open and barged in. Hubert's eyes lit up with glee the moment he spotted the bracelet in my hand. Dove, I never thought you'd stoop this low. Give that bracelet back to Lilith right now. Watching their well-rehearsed duet, I let out a self-deprecating chuckle. How utterly blind I must have been in my past life to miss their long-standing affair. When I remained silent, Hubert resorted to his marriage ultimatum again. Hand that bracelet to Lilith now, Dove, and I'll marry you. I know it means the world to you. But it means everything to Lilith. Didn't you want to be my wife? I chuckled. Wife? More like a live-in maid. No. And why does the same bracelet mean more to Lilith anyway? At the end of the day, it all comes down to Hubert thinking I'm not good enough. I turned to meet Lilith's gaze. Aren't you afraid I'll call the police on you for twisting the truth like this? Lilith laughed carelessly. Have you forgotten what my father does for a living? My pupils dilated in shock. Lilith commanded immense respect among the new educated youth. Even the village chief had to show her deference, all because her father held a significant government position in the city. Chapter 2. That's why she's acting so brazenly now, too, with a sneer. I gritted my teeth, shoved past them both, ran to the cesspit by the courtyard, tore off the bracelet and flung it in. Lilith and Hubert came rushing over just in time to see the white jade bracelet slowly sinking beneath the surface. Lilith felt blood rush to her head, her temples throbbing violently. She raised her hand and slapped me across the face without mercy, her eyes blazing with fury. It took her a long moment to force out a low, guttural snarl. Dove. I turned my head and spat out a mouthful of blood, sneering, if I can't have it, neither will you. Let me go. Seeing Lilith was about to hit me again, Hubert panicked instantly. Lilith, stop, please stop. Lilith glared coldly at Hubert. What? You're taking her side now. Hubert frantically waved his hands, pointing at the cesspit. No way, I'd never help her. Hurry and fish out the bracelet before it sinks. Lilith's eyes gleamed as she snorted coldly, ordering Hubert to tie me up. She grabbed a ladle and started scooping frantically on her own. Seeing I couldn't break free, Hubert joined Lilith in fishing for the jade bracelet. After what felt like ages, a sudden cry of delight rang out. I saw two foul-smelling people walking toward me, carrying something. Instantly, my stomach churned uncontrollably. Ugh, I glared at them in disgust. Seeing Lilith's face darken immediately, Hubert quickly urged her to go freshen up while he repeatedly rinsed the bracelet under running water. After Lilith finished washing up, she strutted over wearing the bracelet and dangled it smugly in front of me. See, I got it in the end. Didn't I? I spat on her, digging through shit pits for trinkets. Some refined city girl you are. Disgusting. Lilith's face darkened, and Hubert promptly slapped me across the face, bound and helpless. I took the full brunt of the blow. The man's strength far exceeded a woman's. My cheeks swelled instantly from the impact. Lilith finally cracked a smile seeing me in such a pathetic state. Brother Hubert, this bitch deserves it. Why couldn't she just hand over the bracelet like a good girl? You made us waste so much time and effort. Still seething, she grabbed a withered willow branch and lashed it across my body until my flesh split open. I glared at Lilith, grinding my teeth as I demanded, just tell me one thing. What do you want with my bracelet? Lilith and Hubert exchanged glances before covering their mouths in muffled laughter. I'll be honest with you, I've had prophetic dreams since childhood. I dreamed of a 5-year famine coming. In that dream, you lived lavishly thanks to that spatial magic bracelet. While Hubert and I had to fight others for wild herbs like starving beggars, a flicker of resentment crossed Lilith's eyes as she spoke, but it soon gave way to glee. Now that the bracelet's mine, I'll be the one living in luxury. Hubert chimed in, Lilith, the bracelet is yours now, Lilith nodded firmly, that's right, it's mine, and no one's taking it away, with resolve. Lilith shut her eyes and bit her finger, letting blood drip onto the jade bracelet, which began emitting an eerie fluorescent glow. Hubert swallowed hard. After hearing Lilith rave endlessly about the bracelet's power, he now stared at her wrist with bated anticipation. Lilith's grin widened into a manic smile as she cackled, infinite space, endless fertile lands. Ha! All mine. Hubert, fearing Lilith might forget him, edged closer. Lilith, don't forget about me. I went through hell to get you that bracelet, Lilith said impatiently. Got it, relax. With me around during the famine, you won't starve. Hubert nodded and continued staring at the bracelet with eager anticipation. The two of them kept watching. For 10 whole minutes, the bracelet remained unchanged, as if that fleeting fluorescent glow had just been an illusion. Lilith shook the bracelet in disbelief. How could this happen? That's impossible. I clearly saw it glowing just now. I scoffed. Are you blind? That's just sunlight reflecting off it. Lilith's gaze at me was venomous as she picked up the willow switch and lashed me mercilessly again. Dove, are you the one playing these tricks? Hubert also glared at me impatiently, his eyes dark with malice. Dove, why resort to such petty schemes? Isn't this just asking for trouble? Tell me. Where's your real family heirloom jade bracelet? I turned my head away in silence, looking completely shameless and unrepentant. This indifferent attitude infuriated Lilith. She sneered, I was planning to throw you some pig slop when the famine comes. Dove, you've brought this upon yourself. You're courting death. With those words, she barged into my room with Hubert in tow, acting all high and mighty. The two began searching and soon found a bracelet. I found it, Lilith laughed joyfully. Locking eyes with Hubert, who was equally delighted, holding the bracelet. Lilith, I found one too. Lilith's smiling face froze instantly. She checked under the bed again. 10 identical bracelets lay neatly in a row, 5 in the wardrobe, 7 in the firewood pile, 1 in the kitchen salt shaker. Finally, the two carried out a whole pile of bracelets and placed them in the courtyard. Hubert gulped as he finished counting. Lilith, 99 in total, with the one you're holding. That makes 100. Lilith was so furious she almost laughed, raising her hand to grip my chin. Dove, are you messing with me? Think this is funny? In a frenzied rage, she tore off her bracelet and smashed it violently against the ground, shattering it to pieces. She had Hubert drag me before that pile of bracelets and pin me hard to the ground. I swear I'll kill you. Hurry up and tell me which one's real. I just smiled. Isn't it obvious which one's real? You have prophetic dreams. Don't you? Just take a nap and let your dreams tell you, or why don't you just bleed on each one to test them out? Lilith was going crazy, staring at that pile of bracelets and itching to smash them all, but she just couldn't bring herself to do it. She didn't dare take that gamble. In the end, Lilith raised a knife to slash at my throat. Dove, I'll kill you first. You're just a parentless orphan anyway. My father can protect me. I'll try them one by one. I refuse to believe I can't figure it out. Chapter 3. Hubert grew nervous and moved to stop Lilith. 3. Just as the blade was about to fall, the roar of a car engine erupted outside my door. In the 1970s, even an ox cart was an unimaginable luxury, let alone a car. Hubert cautiously peeked outside, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously as he whispered, Lilith, it's military vehicles. Lilith shot me a venomous glare and spat, lucky you. Then she and Hubert each grabbed armfuls of bracelets and bolted, leaving nothing behind. The courtyard gate swung open as several soldiers rushed in to untie me. You must be Dove, right? What's going on? Are you okay? I shook my head. I'm fine. The next second, my barely conscious body sent warning signals. I couldn't hold on any longer and blacked out. When I came to again, I found myself lying on a hospital bed in the clinic, blinking groggily. I jolted fully awake upon seeing a man in a mouse suit sitting beside me. Back then, I didn't just sell the bracelet to that middleman for a pittance. I'd also given him 2 letters along with it. One was addressed to him, containing 5 yuan with instructions to deliver the bracelet to the authorities. One letter was for him to deliver to the government, containing instructions on how to use the bracelet. I knew possessing such treasure could bring trouble. Rather than keeping this hot potato in my own hands, it was better to entrust it to the state for proper handling. It seems the government has now recognized the significance of this bracelet. Seeing me awake, the leader kindly handed me a glass of water. Dove, drink some water first. I nodded and took a sip, feeling slightly less tense and awkward. Dove, you know this bracelet holds extraordinary power, don't you? I nodded. I do. That's precisely why I turned it over to the state. Only our nation can harness its full potential to benefit the people. The official's smile widened as he patted my shoulder. Good comrade, is the famine you mentioned in your letter confirmed to be true? I nodded and recounted Lilith's prophetic dream word for word. Though I kept my rebirth a secret, some things are better left unsaid. The leader grasped the gravity of the situation and quietly went to work. After 2 days of recuperation, the military escorted me back to the village with a substantial amount of provisions and cash vouchers. Naturally, I stashed away the lion's share. The military vehicle had barely left when Hubert showed up at my door with Lilith. Dove, what connections did you pull? The army actually gave you a ride home. My silence kept the two from daring to lay hands on me. They simply tossed a pouch of shattered bracelets before me. Where is the real spatial jade bracelet? Seeing Lilith's pallid face, I realized she'd actually tried blood binding them one by one. What a shame, none of them were real. I don't know. Are you sure it's not in there? Seeing my innocent expression, Lilith was left breathless with frustration until Hubert quickly steadied her. Hubert let the weakened Lilith lean against his shoulder, gave me a complicated look, and then began slowly. Dove, I realize now I didn't think this through properly at first. Just hand over the jade bracelet. Lilith's just trying to survive. She'll share half the food stored inside with you. I remained silent, watching them both with an unchanged expression. Hubert paused briefly before continuing. Dove, you've changed. I used to think you were a selfless comrade, But now you've become so selfish, it's like I don't even know you anymore." As he spoke, he slightly narrowed his eyes and turned what he believed to be his most handsome profile toward me, thinking of my past self. I dug my nails into my palms and let out a self-deprecating chuckle. I was truly selfless back then. You'd casually dump your farm work on me with just a word, then collect your full 10 work points without a shred of guilt. The meat ration coupons I couldn't bear to use, the fabric tickets I hoarded. You took them all, yet you never once defined what we were to each other. "Hubert, shall we settle accounts? Let's tally exactly how much you owe me." "Oh wait, it's not just me, is it? The village, the educated youth office, who knows how many other girls like me fell for your silver tongue?" Hubert froze, his hand trembling as he pointed at me. "Dove, when did you become so petty?" Lilith snapped out of it, glaring at me venomously with a warning tone. "Dove, you'll regret this." With that, she dragged Hubert away. "Cross that bridge when we come to it, soon enough." I understood what Lilith meant. After securing our household provisions, Hubert and Lilith came knocking with the village chief in tow. The wooden door rattled under impatient knocks as I opened it with visible irritation. The door swung open to reveal the village chief's wrinkled face, his smile creasing his weathered features. "Dove, it's not right to hoard good things for yourself, is it? Hand it over to me, the village will distribute it, and I'll make sure you get 30% of the benefits." "Fair enough." His outrageous demand instantly wiped the smile off my face. 30%. You think I'm some fattened pig for slaughter?" Seeing my dissatisfaction, the village chief hesitated before timidly extending 4 fingers. "How about 40% then? Dove, you know we're in a socialist country now. Don't get too greedy." I scoffed, my gaze shifting between the 3 of them. "Isn't it you who's being too greedy? And even if I did hand it over, what I'd get back would probably be a measly 40%. The village chief tapped his cane to assert his authority. "Dove, let me make this crystal clear. That spatial jade bracelet, you're handing it over whether you like it or not." Hubert coaxed softly. "Hand it over, Dove. It's for the village's benefit." The standoff continued. Lilith was the first to break the tension, her eyes flashing with momentary hatred before she dashed toward the village broadcast room. Soon after, Lilith's voice crackled through the loudspeakers. "Famine is coming, all villagers must prepare. Comrade Dove has endless food supplies. Everyone, go claim your share at her place." My eyes darted nervously. Lilith's going all out to make me the target of public outrage. Hubert grew frantic. "Dove, just hand it over now. Once the others start grabbing, do you really think I'll get my hands on it?" Squeezing his eyes shut as if staking everything, he ground out each word. "If you'll surrender the true spatial jade bracelet, I'll marry you right this instant." Then came his final addition. The wedding night would be tonight. His face overlapped in my vision with that same smug, domineering expression he'd worn in our past life. Smack. With a crisp sound, I slapped him across the face. Hubert's eyes flew open, feeling the stinging heat on his cheek as he stared at me in utter disbelief. "Dove, you hit me." Before I could speak, Lilith came charging over with a horde of villagers behind her, their eyes glowing red like wolves in the night. Lilith stood at the front, arms crossed, grinning viciously at me. "Dove, if I can't have it, neither will you." The villagers behind her raised their fists, shouting in unison, "Hand over the jade bracelet." Clearly, she had already told them about the spatial jade bracelet on the way here. Hubert dashed to Lilith's side and stood there, both grinning at me as if waiting to see how I'd handle this mess. "Hand over the jade bracelet, Dove. The whole village watched you grow up. You wouldn't be so cruel to us, would you?" "That's right, I even gave you a steamed bun when you were little. Give me that bracelet, and I'll treat you like my own daughter." Everyone was racking their brains trying to cozy up to me, but after coming of age, orphaned and without handouts, I survived solely by the sweat of my brow. Their petty favors now rang hollow in my ears. Just as the crowd was about to lose control and strip me bare, that hustler pushed forward shouting, "Stop pressuring Dove. She sold me this bracelet days ago." Gasps of shock rippled through the crowd. "Is this for real?" The fence dug at his ear. "Course, that Dove's bracelet ain't top-shelf stuff, but I can still spot a fake when I see one." Lilith pressed urgently. "Was there something on the bracelet?" She dreamed again. The bracelet's form vivid behind her eyelids, the middleman cut in first. Glutinous rice variety jade, with a scratch right across the red patch. Looks like a school of darting fish. Hearing the dealer describe the bracelet's features with pinpoint accuracy, their face went pale as they slumped weakly against Hubert. Hubert's mind exploded with a boom, as the words, sold out, echoed relentlessly in his head. Sold. Where was it sold? He asked again hastily, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. The middleman shrugged. It's changed hands too many times to track. How would I know? With their last hope extinguished, Hubert and Lilith collapsed to the ground in despair. As the crowd began dispersing and I was about to head back inside, I saw Lilith struggling to her feet. Chapter 4, No Bracelets. Buy grain instead, for I'll wire my father immediately to send me money. Once I stockpile grain and sell it at inflated prices during the famine, I'll make a killing. Hubert perked up and rose from the ground. Right, we need to buy grain, the village chief remained, giving me a complicated look. Dove, you've offended the whole village. I doubt anyone would sell you grain now. Lilith sneered triumphantly. Dove, an orphan like you probably can't even afford to buy food in town, can you? Hubert glared at me, still smarting from the slap I'd given him, and hissed through clenched teeth, Humph. If you're willing to get on your knees and lick my boots when the time comes, maybe I'll spare you some rotten scraps. The group burst into cruel laughter, already picturing me starving and destitute by the roadside when famine struck. A few days later, perhaps because word of Lilith's famine prophecy had spread, the neighboring villages started hoarding grain like crazy, and the panic buying spread to the city. The co-op's entire stock was wiped out. People were bankrupting themselves to stockpile food at home, terrified of the looming famine, and just as the village chief said, hardly any villagers were willing to sell me their grain. When I woke at midnight a week later, I spotted several shadowy figures lurking by the courtyard. A sense of unease came over me, so I rushed to check the kitchen. Just as I feared, all our grain had been stolen clean. They left behind 2 sacks of rice bran, almost like they were mocking me. The next morning dawned, the very day the great famine had begun in my past life. The sky stretched like a scorched blue cloth, bleached pale with singed edges curling at the horizon. Animals cried restlessly as the entire village crowded into the ancestral hall. The famine is coming for real. What are we going to do? I don't know if my stockpile's enough. Lilith, you've got supplies. Could you spare me some? Lilith said with a laugh amidst the crowd, if anyone's running low on food, come to me, special friends discount. Just 10 times the co-op price. The crowd forced polite chuckles, but no one took the bait. Just then, Lilith spotted me. Her eyes instantly lit up, a mocking smirk playing on her lips. Dove, heard your family's grain got stolen. Want me to sell you some grain? Only 20 times the price. Deal. The aunt who'd been worrying about her insufficient food storage instantly perked up at Lilith's words. With me as the pathetic contrast, she instantly straightened her posture with newfound confidence. In that moment, everyone turned to look at me with schadenfreude gleaming in their eyes. I let out a light chuckle, not a trace of tension visible in my demeanor. Lilith sneered. Who are you trying to fool? Only 2 sacks of bran left. How long can you possibly last? Might as well get on your knees now and lick my boots while begging me to sell you some grain. I remained silent, just wearing a faint smile at the corner of my mouth, as if untouched by the famine, completely unperturbed. Soon enough, Lilith would understand why. Government officials arrived in the village by truck, with their leaders shouting, official notice, all disaster-stricken areas are now under unified management. Communal dining will be implemented, comrades, rest assured. The state has ample grain reserves. No one will starve. We'll do everything possible to prevent even a single death from hunger. Instead of the expected roaring cheers, an oppressive silence fell after the leader finished speaking. He watched in bewilderment as the crowd surged out of the village ancestral hall, their faces a mix of conflicting emotions. Finally, the middle-aged woman swallowed hard and spoke hesitantly. If the government's giving us food rations, what about the grain I've stockpiled? I've got a year's worth stored up. Mine's a 5-year supply. I've been hoarding for 10 years. Lilith turned pale, frozen in shock. After a long silence, she murmured, I've stockpiled. Before she could finish, 2 streams of despairing tears rolled down her cheeks. Only she knew the truth. How she'd exhausted every ounce of effort to secure most of her family's savings, all spent on provisions. But now they told her the famine had indeed come. Yet the government would provide rations so no one needed to worry. It was nothing short of a dagger thrust straight into her heart. Hubert could no longer afford to care for Lilith. Though less well-off than her, he drained his family's savings to hoard overpriced grain. The villagers and dozen-odd educated youths snapped into action, charging toward Lilith in frenzy, some even snatching firewood clubs as makeshift weapons mid-run. I could kill Lilith right now, the higher-ups. Aware of her prophetic dreams, sent escorts for her. Soldiers quietly formed a protective perimeter around Lilith, realizing they couldn't touch Lilith. The crowd erupted in wails and lamentations. This is all her fault. That doomsayer claiming famine would starve us all. I wouldn't have stockpiled all this food otherwise. And now look, I paid triple the price for it, and now I'm not even sure I can sell it at cost. Lilith was in a daze until the soldiers marched her past me. When she suddenly looked up and locked eyes with me venomously, "It was you, wasn't it? Did you hand the jade bracelet over to the authorities, Dove? Why do you keep sabotaging my plans again and again?" I nodded calmly and said, "Because I'm a law-abiding citizen, I can't just think about myself and ignore the greater good." Lilith let out an uncontrollable roar, as if venting all the fury and resentment pent up inside her. She kept cursing at me from behind, but I didn't mind. Knowing she'd likely spend the rest of her life being controlled as a prophetic tool, the government assigned me a comfortable job for life, with generous rewards for voluntarily surrendering the jade bracelet. I trust our nation will harness this jade bracelet's full potential, and I'm fortunate enough to witness it all unfold. As for the famine, nothing happened despite the abundance of food. The only one who descended into madness with Lilith was Hubert. Gone was his former carefree elegance. Now he'd become the village idiot, grinning mindlessly at the roadside. Passers-by would occasionally hear him muttering, "Hee hee hee, the jade bracelet is mine, Dove, you're unworthy." Story 2. When the apocalyptic storm arrived, my mother, who favored boys over girls, pushed me out the door to buy chicken wings. The fierce wind and pouring rain pummeled the ground, and as I struggled against the storm, I hadn't gone far before the wind and rain swept me into the nearby sewage river next to our complex, where I drowned. My brother, spoiled by my mother, showed no concern when I didn't return for a long time. "Mom, could sister be dead? What about my cola chicken wings if she's dead?" Then, I opened my eyes again, back before the storm hit. "Camila, go downstairs and buy some chicken wings." I smiled and agreed wholeheartedly. After leaving the house, I didn't head to the supermarket. Instead, I went straight to the 12th floor. "Buy it yourself. I hope you too choke on those cola chicken wings." 1. The weather forecast predicted 3 days of severe rainstorms. After a month of scorching heat, everyone was looking forward to the rain, but the rain lasted a week, even causing floods, bringing catastrophic destruction to humanity. In my previous life, my mother had sent me out in the pouring rain to buy chicken wings, and I ended up drowning in the sewage river, ignored by everyone. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn just before the storm. Carson, weighing 280 pounds, was sprawled on the couch, enjoying the air conditioning, eating ice cream, and watching short videos. While my mom was working overtime, I quickly searched for various instant food ads and waved my phone in front of my gluttonous brother. The ads for spicy instant noodles and self-heating hot pots were drool-worthy. Not just my brother was tempted, even I felt like eating them. "Is there a new flavor for this instant noodle and self-heating hot pot with pork intestines? Hurry up and buy some for me. Sis has no money, you know, all my salary goes to mom." Useless. "Go ask mom for money, tell her I want to eat." Alright, I happily agreed to his request and then got $600 from mom. This was all according to my plan. Mom never buys the snacks I want, but for my brother, no matter the cost, she buys them by the box. With the $600 from mom, I ordered online, instant noodles, spicy powder, self-heating rice, and self-heating hot pot, and paid extra for next-day delivery. Although the address and building were correct for our home, the apartment number I filled in was 1201. 1201 is the apartment my grandmother secretly bought for me. She disapproved of my mother's gender bias and worried about who would care for her in old age. So she bought it in the same building, same unit as ours, but my kind grandmother could never have imagined that my mother would send me out in the rain to buy chicken wings for my brother, ultimately leading to my tragic death in the sewage river. Early in the morning, pretending to buy fruits for my brother, I used the leftover money from the instant noodles mom bought for him to purchase some durable vegetables like potatoes and onions, and also bought 10 pounds of big, round apples. Normally, the fruits I eat are overripe bananas and pears with soft spots. I had never even touched such round apples before. My brother doesn't like these cheap fruits. He only likes expensive fruits like cherries, durians, mangoes, and blueberries. I've smelled them. Durian is a bit stinky, but mangoes are sweet and nice. I stored the vegetables and apples in 1201, then took a box of imported cherries downstairs back to our home. Carson, lying on the couch, saw me return and looked irritable and dissatisfied. It's so hot, I want chilled cherries. Wash them quickly with ice water, dream on. I threw the box of cherries on the table. I read an expert say that washing cherries removes their weight loss effects. What expert said that? Cherries have that effect. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Before, you intentionally washed the cherries before giving them to me. You just can't stand to see me slim, can you? I'll kick you to death. I just found out too. From now on, I promise, I absolutely won't wash your cherries, I said, raising 3 fingers towards the light and swearing, while dodging the kick Carson aimed at me. Damn right, you better know better. I've never heard that cherries can help with weight loss. I need to eat more. Watching Carson dive into the fruit box like a wild boar was a sight to behold. Suppressing a laugh, I returned to the bedroom. Eat up, eat up. The more you eat, the more you'll poop. It's definitely slimming. By noon, Carson had already made 3 trips to the bathroom. Following Carson's request, I stewed a pot of delicious braised pork for lunch, worried that unwashed cherries wouldn't be enough to give him a satisfactory bowel movement. I added some laxatives I bought in the morning to the braised pork. I can cook meat dishes like braised pork, but I can't eat them, because I am a girl. I'm not even allowed to sit at the table to eat, according to my mother, Clara. In the old days, women weren't allowed at the table. I asked her why she could sit at the table then. She said it was because my father died early, and now she is the head of the household. Every day, I can only eat the leftovers from their meals, a routine that's lasted for 20 years. My grandmother never favored boys over girls. My mother was well cared for by her during her childhood. But as my mother grew up and faced obstacles in work and life, she always felt that if she had a brother, her life wouldn't have been so miserable. After getting married, she always longed to have a son. Sometimes I even wonder if I'm really her biological child. Just as I threw the laxatives into the pot, I heard the sound of the door opening. Mom, Carson collapsed on the sofa, weakly greeting Clara, snoring like a fattened pig ready for slaughter. Did my dear son have a fun morning? My mother patted my brother's sagging double chin, her eyes full of indulgence. It was okay. Just a bit of diarrhea. Have you taken any medicine? I walked out of the kitchen, once again facing the mother who sent me to my death in a past life. Why are you wandering around instead of cooking in the kitchen? Huh? What's that smell on you? It's awful, Clara said, fanning the air with her hand. Your brother has diarrhea. Find some medicine for him. I pursed my lips, whether in my past life or this one. In my mother's eyes, I was never her daughter. Just a maid carrying all the household duties and responsibilities that should have been hers. I held back my anger, pretending to find a pack of smecta, though I just mixed some starch with tap water. Diarrhea requires a strict diet, but Carson kept stuffing himself with braised pork regardless, except for the cauliflower stir-fry. I put laxatives in all the other dishes. This is because the meatless cauliflower stir-fry was my lunch for today, baby. This piece of braised pork is absolutely delicious with its layers of fat. Clara tenderly placed the soft braised pork into her son's bowl, unaware that the softer it was, the more soaked with laxatives it became. Carson, too busy eating, stuffed the pork into his mouth. Go, serve your brother another bowl of rice. I respectfully received the bowl, thinking, stuff it, stuff more. I carried the empty bowl back to the kitchen as thunder roared outside, reverberating through the sky. Soon after, heavy rain poured down, pattering against the windows. Seeing the heavy rain outside, Clara hurriedly put down her utensils. It's raining, the roads will be bad, I need to rush to work, clean the dishes later, and remember to prepare medicine for your brother this afternoon. Okay, Mom. After sending Clara off, Carson, full and satisfied, rubbed his round belly and belched. Before I reached the table, I slipped and fell heavily to the ground. Rubbing my sore arms and legs from the knocks, I finally noticed the slick of oil on the ground. See how nice I am to you. Mom won't let you eat meat, but I do. Sitting on the ground, wincing in pain, I watched the fat pig look at me with a greasy smile on his face. Great, really great. Thank you. Gritting my teeth, I stood up from the ground and thought, fat pig, just you wait. Carson lumbered his hefty body back into the house. His room was the master bedroom of this house. Large and spacious, yet, his 280-pound frame made the 2-meter-wide bed look small and narrow. Patting Carson, who soon fell into a deep sleep on the bed, He began to snore loudly in his dreams. Brother, do you find me sexy? Brother, I really like you. Looking at the wriggling maggot on the bed, I felt goosebumps all over. It turns out he had such inclinations. Suppressing my disgust, I secretly installed a camera in a corner of the living room, connected it to my phone, and quietly returned to Carson's bedside. Seeing him sleeping soundly, I boldly took the 3 power banks beside his bed, stuffed all the toilet paper in the house into my bag, leaving only the nearly finished roll in the bathroom. I tiptoed to open the fridge door, packing all of Carson's favorite imported fruits and various frozen meats into my bag. Thanks to this fat pig Carson, the fridge was packed full of sealed chicken legs, pig's feet, and sausages, and I could barely keep up. Carrying the heavy bag, I quietly opened the door and took the elevator to the 12th floor. I now live on the 2nd floor in a house that overlooks the Wenjiang River. Based on my past experience, I knew the river would flood the neighborhood in less than 3 days after the torrential rains, submerging all houses below the 3rd floor. The delivery person, very dedicated, braved the rain to deliver the instant noodles I ordered online yesterday to the 12th floor. After a quick tidy up, I headed back downstairs to my home. The fat pig was still snoring thunderously, occasionally mumbling nonsense that sent shivers down my spine. Due to the heavy rain, Clara came home early from work just as I finished washing the dishes. Carson was awakened by Clara's scolding as she entered the door. Grumpy from being roused, all day long it's nag, nag, nag. If you don't like her, you pinch her, you hit her. Who are you yelling at? Damn it, can't even sleep peacefully. Oh dear, it's my fault. Blame this jinx. Blame this jinx. Clara raised her hand and slapped me hard. That effort was too much for her. A rumbling came from her stomach. Her face turned pale, and she rushed to the bathroom. Looks like regular medicine works fast. I glanced at the fat pig. He still looked perfectly healthy. Those 280 pounds weren't for nothing. Look at your mother, he cursed, then collapsed back onto the sofa. The poor double sofa had long been crushed into a deep pit by Carson. As soon as he sat down, a sound of wood cracking came from beneath. Oh shit, the sofa broke in the middle, collapsing into 2 pieces, and a foul stench wafted up. Mom, damn it, Carson lay on the ground, shouting for Clara. Clara, busy in the bathroom, couldn't care less about Carson. Carson cursed again and saw me standing in the corner, just slapped by Clara. What are you looking at? Come over here and help me up. No, I refuse. Smelling the stench filling the house, I waved my hand and went to the kitchen. I hadn't eaten lunch yet after all this fuss. Damn, but the smell in the living room is really strong. It even drifted into the kitchen. Carson, cursing, leaned against the wall and hobbled to the bathroom door. I need to poop. I need to poop. Good son. Just wait a bit longer. Just wait a bit longer. Mom will be ready soon. After finishing my meal in the kitchen, I walked into the living room only to find it deserted and reeking of a foul odor. After searching around, I found the 2 of them, mother and son, lying deeply affectionate on the bed, almost exhausted from diarrhea. Carson was nestled in Clara's arms, one hand covering his butt. Mom, I want to eat cola chicken wings. Seeing me come in, Clara, trying to muster her energy, commanded me haughtily. Camila, go downstairs and buy it now. Your brother wants cola chicken wings. I meekly agreed. Mom, can you transfer me some money? It's been raining a lot these days. I'll buy extra to keep. My phone showed a transfer of 2,000 just as I was about to lock the screen, followed by several alerts for a severe rainstorm warning. In just a few short hours, while they were dealing with their issues, the rainfall had reached 372 millimeters. The phone's black rainstorm warning indicated that this level of rainfall would continue for 3 more days. While they were still moaning and groaning in bed, I took the opportunity to take the last of Carson's snacks from the snack cabinet, packed in plastic bags. I couldn't help but marvel at his appetite as I packed. Just the beef jerky alone amounted to 7 bags. As I closed the door, cursing under my breath as I went upstairs, I thought to myself, by your own damn wings. You 2 can wait until you're dead for all I care. I left Carson's snacks outside Grandma Maya's door on the 4th floor, knocked, and hurried up the stairs. Grandma Maya is a kind soul. In my past life, when the rain turned the streets into rivers and everyone was watching the chaos from their windows, only Grandma Maya, finding a wooden board somewhere, threw it down from her building and yelled for me to catch it. I've always remembered Grandma Maya's kindness, back in this life. Though I can't help much, at least good people should be rewarded. I rushed back up to my apartment on the 12th floor. Turning on the computer, I connected the phone's surveillance to it, and the living room's full scene unfolded on the monitor. In the footage, Carson repeatedly ran to the bathroom. I guessed that the toilet paper must be running out soon, and sure enough, after 2 more trips, a wailing like that of a wild boar emerged from behind the closed bathroom door. Mom. There's no paper left. All right, dear, Mommy will get it for you. Clara searched frantically, heading to the living room, only to find the broken sofa and the green smoke emanating from it. Carson, did you do this on the sofa? I couldn't hold it back. Why are you yelling? Hurry up with the paper. Clara's initial anger was crushed by Carson's demands from the bathroom, and she continued obediently searching for toilet paper for her hefty son. Where did that damn girl put all the toilet paper? Right, why hasn't that worthless Camila come back yet? Clara, enduring her stomach pain, looked out the window down at the supermarket entrance visible from the second-floor balcony. At that moment, the supermarket doors were shut tight. The torrential rain outside had turned into a vast ocean, rushing towards the Wen River. No sign of human life to be seen. Oh my God, it's a flood disaster, Clara shouted loudly, and Carson, hearing his mother's cries, ran out of the bathroom without wiping. Mom, did Camila drown? Your sister must be drowned. Mom, I was thinking about something. What is it? We can't go out to find her now. The flood is too big. It would be suicide. What about my cola chicken wings if she's dead? Clara stared at her son, who was already 204 months old, stunned for a moment. Mom, why don't you go downstairs and buy them for me? Watching my brother's serious craving. I laughed out loud in the room. At a time like this, all he could think about was cola chicken wings. I opened the fridge, defrosted a bag of chicken wings, and decided to make cola chicken wings for myself tonight. Carson, after all, was considering family ties, or more precisely, he wanted to keep someone around who could cook for him, having already lost one sister. If Mom dies again, I'll be completely on my own. I watched the screen of my computer with amusement, eagerly waiting for Clara to open the fridge. Finally, at 6 p.m., after Clara had exhausted herself cleaning the house and suffering from diarrhea, her son urged her on, and she reluctantly made her way to the kitchen to prepare dinner, leaning against the wall for support. To her shock, when she opened the fridge, her eyes nearly popped out. It was completely empty, not even an egg in sight. This must be Camila's doing, she muttered. Carson walked over to the fridge, opened the freezer, and found it just as empty. Damn it, Camila is trying to starve us to death. Mom, what are we going to eat tonight? Don't worry, honey, don't you have some snacks? Eat those for now, and I'll go retrieve the lunch we threw out. Clara had earlier dumped the lunch into the trash, claiming it wasn't cooked properly, and that's why they both ended up with diarrhea. Now, there she was, fishing out the laxative-laced leftovers from the trash can with chopsticks. I gagged at the sight. Anyone would find it unbearable. Mom, her son's bitter cries echoed again, filled with resentment. What's wrong, my dear? That bitch took all my snacks too. Don't be angry, honey, don't waste your anger on a dead person. She won't have a good end. Carson was too upset to speak, while Clara kept patting his back to comfort him. Don't be mad, my dear. Once the rain stops, I'll go buy some new ones. That bitch really should die. If she doesn't, I'll kill her for you. There, don't be mad anymore, my good boy. After the chicken wings had thawed, I steamed a big pot of rice for myself and carefully stewed a pot of cola chicken wings. I sat at the dining table ready to eat. Meanwhile, Clara and Carson were eating the salvaged leftovers from the trash can, a messy mix that looked like pig slop. I took several photos of my cola chicken wings with my phone, planning to surprise Carson at the right moment. At midnight, as the rain outside began to lessen, Carson was still online, likely unable to sleep from hunger. Using an alternate account, I posted several photos of muscular men, according to Carson's taste, and added him as a friend. Bro, wanna be friends? He must have seen that only 10 photos were visible to non-friends and immediately accepted my friend request. Carson, bro, where are you from? Why aren't you asleep yet? Less than a minute after adding him, his message popped into my inbox. Me, same city as you, can't sleep because the rain is annoying. Carson, same here, bro, not just the rain, but I'm also really hungry. Me, what happened? Didn't you eat tonight? Carson, I had diarrhea, now I'm starving. What did you eat tonight, bro? Me, it's a river out there. and my fridge only had some frozen stuff left. Ate some cola chicken wings. Cola chicken wings picture, JPG, Carson. I really want to eat cola chicken wings. Me, the rain's letting up. Go buy some tomorrow. Carson, okay, bro. I'll definitely eat cola chicken wings tomorrow. I rolled on my bed laughing, then took a hot shower and drifted peacefully to sleep. I slept deeply until shouts from outside my window woke me up. I ran to the window and looked down. The floodwaters had receded significantly but still flowed rapidly like a small river. The supermarket door had been smashed open, and it seemed people were looting inside. The struggling woman in the muddy water below was my mother, who favored sons over daughters. I don't know if her vision was exceptional, but she stared intently at me by the window. But in just a moment, like me in a past life, she was swept into the One River, never to be seen again. No matter what, she is my mom. Seeing such a scene really makes me feel uneasy. I sighed and went back to my computer to review the security footage. At 8:00 in the morning, Carson got up early, unusually so, since he usually sleeps until 10:00. Watching him sitting in the living room, fiddling with his phone and wearing a cheeky smile, I had a bad feeling. I glanced at my own phone and, sure enough, there were 5 unread messages. Good morning, big bro, you really predicted it right. There's much less fruit outside. Today I also want to eat cola chicken wings. Big bro, aren't you awake yet? Saw your social media. You're in great shape. Can you share your secrets with me? Looking at these clingy messages from the little brat, if it were a girl, no guy could withstand it. But I knew that on the other side of the phone was a 280-pound brat. Mom, I'm hungry. Get up, Mom, don't sleep anymore. I'm starving. Carson yelled around the house, and his mother, Clara, who adores her son, immediately got up and started rummaging through the kitchen for food. In some corner, she indeed found 2 packets of instant noodles, and frowned upon checking the expiry date. Sweetie, Mommy will make these for you. Even though the packaging of the instant noodles was clearly way past its expiry date, this stuff wouldn't kill anyone. At worst it might cause a stomach upset. Starving, Carson didn't care whether they were expired or not. He eagerly stood at the kitchen door, watching Clara tear open the wrinkled noodle packets and throw them into boiling water. Without waiting for the noodles to soften, Carson grabbed the chopsticks from Clara's hand and began to eat voraciously, not minding the heat. Clara, also hungry from the early morning, couldn't bear to see her son hungry and waited for him to finish so she could pick at the leftover bits of noodles in the pot and drink some soup. Mom, I want to eat cola chicken wings. Go buy some for me, sweetie. There's a big flood outside. The supermarket is closed. How do you expect Mom to buy them? Honey, let's wait until the water recedes and then I'll buy some for you. The rain has already lessened. Look, there are people in the supermarket. Carson pointed to the supermarket downstairs, where the open doors revealed a bustling crowd and a rubber boat parked at the entrance. Son, those people went by boat. We don't have one. I don't care. I want it. You go buy it for me, Carson. Please be reasonable. Carson was not reasonable and started dragging Clara towards the door. Despite Clara clinging desperately to the door frame, her small frame was no match for her son's 280-pound body. Carson, like carrying a small chicken, hurled his mom into the hallway. Clara tried to run back, but faced with Carson's fierce glare, she dared not and reluctantly waded into the water. Then, the scene I witnessed from upstairs unfolded, seeing his mom being swept away by the flood. Carson was stunned. He had personally pushed his mother into a desperate situation, all for a meal of cola chicken wings. I made a pot of preserved egg and lean meat porridge with last night's leftover rice and had it with some pickles for breakfast. The torrential rain outside intensified unexpectedly after Clara was swept away, enveloping the community in a veil of despair. The water level of the One River rose rapidly, reaching the riverbanks, threatening to engulf everything on shore. Carson ran back inside, trembling, and sent me messages on his phone. Bro, it's pouring again. Bro, my mom got swept away by the water. What should I do? Bro, are you there? I replied, I'm here, little brother. Stay home and hide. Don't go out in such heavy rain. Okay, Carson replied 3 times, his shaking hands dropping the phone to the ground. I didn't contact my brother for the rest of the day, lying in bed munching on sausages from the fridge and browsing short videos. The oppressive dark clouds outside made it hard to breathe. I turned off the lights, drew the curtains, and quietly lay on the sofa. From the surveillance came strange rustling sounds. I ran to the computer, and there was Carson. Sitting on the armchair, incessantly scratching his body. Sounds kept coming from the corridor, and looking through the peephole, I saw many people ascending the stairs outside. I set my phone to silent mode, plugged headphones into my computer, and barricaded the door with a table and chairs to make it seem like no one was home. After setting everything up, I returned to the computer. Carson was still scratching, his body covered in numerous red rashes. Bro, I'm so itchy. Photo of arm, JPG. Carson truly was something else. Despite the rash, the photo he sent was still processed with a beauty filter, maxed out on whitening and smoothing. Under the effect of the beauty filter, only specks of the rash remained. Having seen what Carson's arm really looked like, it was clear that his rash was severe. I suspected it might be eczema caused by the humid weather from the heavy rain, or perhaps some kind of epidemic. Isn't it said that great epidemics follow great disasters? I just didn't expect it to strike so soon. It had only been 2 days, and Carson was already infected. I found the half bottle of alcohol left over in the medicine cabinet, poured it into a spray bottle, and began spraying around the house. The rain outside grew heavier, and the noise in the hallway louder. I tried to calm Carson through the chat. Little bro, make sure to stay hidden at home. Don't go outside no matter what. After a day, Carson was so hungry he saw stars. Barely able to walk steadily around the house, he had eaten everything in the trash can, even licking the oil off the plastic bags. Bro, I'm so hungry. Carson kept messaging me, as if I were his last resort in this world. I shook my head. This hopeless little brother of mine was just desperate. I didn't believe that given another chance, he wouldn't be just as bad. Once bad, always bad. The Wind River had overflowed its banks, and the entire neighborhood was flooded by the river. A scene of water over Golden Mountain unfolding right before our eyes. Various pieces of garbage and furniture floated around the neighborhood, and occasionally, people washed in from who knows where, struggling as they were swept into the Wind River. The neighborhood was filled with sharp cries, and Carson, visible through a surveillance camera, was curled up in a corner, continuously scratching, his body a bloody mess. The water level rose rapidly, and the surveillance showed that river water had started pouring into the house. Water got into the electrical system, and with a loud bang, the power went out, leaving only Carson's scream echoing in my headphones. As I worried about my troublesome brother, messages flooded into my phone, and in his panic, he even made a voice call. I quietly accepted the call without speaking. Bro, my house is flooding. What should I do, bro? At first, he was coy. Hello, can you hear me? Shit, bro. Fucking speak. What should I do? Eventually, he broke down and cursed outright. I hung up. Carson sent one photo after another. The water had risen to waist level, and by then, Carson must have been standing on his bed. I felt sorry for his 2-meter wide bed, which in the end had to endure the trampling of this 280-pound pig. I called Carson back, this time switching to a video call. After Carson answered, I flipped the camera to show the self-heating hot pot and boxes of instant noodles and hot and sour noodles I had ordered online for him. Bro, what should I do? How come you have so much food? Save me, bro, I'm going to drown. Once I was sure the water level had reached a point where the door couldn't be opened, I flipped the camera back. Little bro, I'm not your brother, I'm your sister. Shit, Camila, you're not dead. Glug, 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 shit, glug. I quietly hung up the phone. Telling you to go on without me. The cries outside were incessant, and the building finally lost power at the last moment. I had already steamed 2 full pots of rice and stir-fried the vegetables from the fridge to serve over the rice. The corners were filled with thermos flasks brimming with hot water. In these apocalyptic times, the virtuous are often the first to perish. It's not that I lack compassion, but in moments of crisis, human nature warps, having lived through this once before. My only thought was self-preservation. My phone still had a signal. Videos from around the city depicted scenes of despair. Some even recorded their last words before being quickly removed by the authorities. In my feed, I learned it wasn't just our city. Many provinces were facing the ordeal of severe rainstorms, with frequent landslides and mudflows. Groping in the dark, I found a night light and turned it on, only to think better of it and turn it off again. We just had to endure. The sunset was soon to rise, bringing hope with it. After countless days of eating and sleeping in a repetitive cycle, the excited shouts of people echoed from outside at the break of dawn. The sound of the alarm was unusually pleasant, bringing a sense of peace. residents trapped. Please come downstairs. Residents trapped. Please come downstairs. Watching neighbors being rescued by boat, I finally realized we were truly being saved. At home, I had consumed all our drinking water and nearly all our food, surviving the last few days on dry instant noodles. This rainstorm was harder to endure than I imagined, but fortunately, I made it through, packing the remaining packets of noodles into my backpack. I put on a mask and took a spray bottle filled with alcohol downstairs. Grandma Maya opened her door, trembling from hunger. Camila, the food at the door. That was from you, wasn't it? Grandma Maya was the only one who knew that my grandmother had bought me an apartment on the 12th floor. Both were kind-hearted old ladies. Yes, Grandma, good child, such a good child. She patted my shoulder and, trembling, pulled out 2 beef jerky sticks wrapped in paper from her pocket. Eat, I saved them especially for you. Tears welled up in my eyes as I bit into the beef jerky. If someone with no blood relation to me could act this way, why were my own mother and brother willing to send me to my death? Grandma Maya and I boarded a volunteer rescue boat. Not far into the journey, I looked back and saw Carson's body being carried out of the 3rd floor. Everyone was taken to a high-point emergency relief area, where hot ginger sugar water and red date tea were being served. Instant noodles and tea eggs were available in unlimited quantities, along with steaming white buns. Each tent had a charging station, and everyone queued orderly to charge their phones and check in safely with distant family members. At noon, I carefully prepared a bowl of instant noodles with an egg for Grandma Maya and brought it to her bed. Her eyes glistened with tears. Good child, truly a good child. From now on, we are family. I nodded firmly. In this world, I finally had family. During the days at the emergency relief area, I stayed by Grandma Maya's side, helping her with meals and water as she couldn't write. I filled out the rescue forms for her. Life gradually improved, and meals became more substantial. A meal box with 2 meat dishes, beef noodles, chicken drumsticks, boiled shrimp, seaweed, and egg drop soup. The nation took great care of us disaster victims. Living in such a country, we all felt immensely proud. Outside, the floodwaters receded, and the Wind River returned to its peaceful days. Only the mottled yellow mud and cracked ground reminded us of the horrors we had endured. Fortunately, Carson's red rash turned out to be just eczema from the damp, not an epidemic. The symptoms of mild fever and vomiting in the relief area were just due to consuming unclean water. Life got better day by day. A year later, as the homeland was rebuilt and the sunrise greeted us, I served up 2 steaming bowls of shredded pork noodles. Grandma, it's time for breakfast. Story 3. After the terrifying extreme cold hit, I stocked up and stayed at home with my parents. In the snowy wilderness, our family of 3 gathered around the table to enjoy a meal of hot pot with thinly sliced lamb. This was the 3rd time I had this dream. In the dream, everything was shrouded in a white blur. The goosefeather-like snow was whipped into a frenzy by the cold wind, and the extreme cold seemed to freeze the air solid. The cold air sucked into my nostrils tightened my entire respiratory tract, making me feel somewhat suffocated. Everywhere, there were bodies frozen into the ice. Beside me were my relatives, long dead, their bodies turned into ice sculptures. A slight touch, and their limbs would fall off, shattering on the ground. As far as the eye could see, there were no more living people. Only the howling of the cold wind remained between heaven and earth. I curled up in a corner, my limbs first aching piercingly, then gradually becoming numb, losing all sensation. It wasn't long before my consciousness began to blur, and a bright light seemed to appear before my eyes. I suddenly woke up, sitting up in bed drenched in sweat. The chirping of insects outside the window faintly entered the room, and without the air conditioning on, it was hot like a steam room. My back was soaked with sweat. Wiping the sweat from my forehead, I moved my stiff toes and couldn't help but shiver. It was that dream again. This was the 3rd time I had this dream. The earth had plunged into a sudden extreme cold of -40°C overnight, drastically reducing the global population, and nearly all my family died in this catastrophe. If after the first dream I could still marvel that I had watched too many disaster movies, the 3rd time I had the exact same dream chilled me to the bone. It was terrifyingly real. The sensation of being frozen alive was too vivid. My fingertips still tingled with pain, and I was still covered in a cold sweat. I even clearly remembered the day the extreme cold arrived, August 21st, early morning. Snow suddenly fell in the midsummer sky, followed by the arrival of a deadly ice hell that claimed countless lives. I looked at my phone. It was August 19th, only 2 days left until the morning of the 21st. A lightning-like thought crossed my mind, making me shiver. Could it be a prophecy? Otherwise, how could I explain having the exact same dream 3 nights in a row? My body hair stood on end, all desire for sleep gone, and I sat up in bed thinking before picking up my phone to check the balances of my bank accounts. I didn't believe in such things in the world, but these 3 dreams must signify something. I had to take action. I'm self-employed, and business had been mediocre lately. I had cashed out my shop, and now I had about 300,000 in all my accounts. But then, my hand holding the phone paused, my motion halted. It was just a dream, after all. Was it necessary to make such a big fuss? That was all my savings. If the extreme cold didn't come, I'd have worked for nothing these past 2 years. I hesitated, unable to make up my mind. Just then, the phone screen suddenly lit up. A notification arrived. I opened it to see a message. The Meteorological Department, Q City Meteorological Station issued a high-temperature red warning on August 18th at 2:13 a.m. Controlled by the subtropical high, maximum temperatures in Z and F districts are expected to reach 45 degrees. Please take precautions against heat. In the dark, I stared at the pale screen, pupils constricted. Yes, in the dream I also received such a message. 3 consecutive days of high temperatures followed by heavy snow, the sudden arrival of extreme cold. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I sat down at the table, teeth clenched. I could hesitate no longer. I had to make a plan now. I immediately called my parents overseas. They were still touring in Thailand, and I urged them to leave their tour group immediately and by the earliest flight back home. My parents sounded surprised on the phone. Delilah, have you lost your mind? We spent a fortune on this tour and it's only been 2 days. Is there an emergency at home? I replied, exhausted. Just do as I say. Would I ever harm you? You need to catch the earliest flight and try to get back tomorrow. Though they grumbled a bit, they couldn't argue with me and reluctantly agreed. Once I got home, I urgently had someone install thermal insulation and foam layers in the bedroom. Due to the time constraint, the installation was rough and unsightly, but I couldn't afford to be concerned about that at the moment. During the installation, my upstairs neighbor came down several times. The woman, skinny and wearing a spaghetti-strap dress, was loud as she banged on the door. When I opened it, she glared at me sharply. The noise from your renovations is incessant. How do you expect anyone to sleep? My husband works night shifts. What if you disrupt his rest? I apologized politely. I'm sorry, I've tried to schedule the work during regular hours, after 10 a.m. and before 6 p.m. Please understand. The woman rolled her eyes. Behind her, a burly man with a fierce expression raised his fist threateningly. Are you deaf? I need to sleep during the day, and I can't with all that banging. Patiently, I asked, what do you suggest then? I can't do renovations at night. How about I only work in the afternoon and stop in the morning? Not in the morning either, the woman snapped, her eyebrows furrowing. You'll be costing us his work time. You'll have to compensate us for lost wages. Feeling helpless, I reflected on how difficult these neighbors were. They had previously occupied another neighbor's parking space and refused to move, forcing the neighbor to find an alternative. They also had a habit of littering in the hallway, constantly drawing complaints from the janitorial staff. Their troublesome reputation was well known in the community. However, I had no time to waste arguing with them, so I pulled out 1,000 yuan from my wallet and handed it over. I'm only renovating for 2 days. Here's some compensation for your trouble. 1,000 isn't enough, at least 2,000. The woman's eyes gleamed greedily as she eyed my wallet. Suppressing my anger, I pulled out another 1,000 yuan and threw it into her hand, then slammed the door shut. Laughter and a shout came from outside. Just 2 days. Any more and you'll have to pay extra. I ignored her and continued with my preparations. As long as they take my money, I just hope they have the chance to spend it. The renovations continued, and in between, I raided every supermarket I could find in the vicinity. I planned to buy perishable meats on the 20th as it was still too warm now, and they would spoil within a day if brought home earlier. I purchased various types of grains, oils, fruits, vegetables, and everyday seasonings, filling several large shopping carts over multiple trips. I also spent a considerable amount on warm clothing and bedding materials like down jackets, down quilts, and cotton quilts. Besides, I stocked up on essential supplies like medicines, alcohol, fuel, lighters, diesel generators, and other household items, including a large amount of drinking water. With the expected temperatures, I knew mobile phones would be unusable, so I only bought a few power banks as backups. After finishing all the arrangements, I finally picked up my phone to call my parents. Considering the time, they should have arrived by now, but as I picked up the phone, I froze. My mom had sent a message, "Delilah, there's a typhoon and the flights have been delayed. Don't worry, we should be able to leave soon." My mind buzzed. When I tried to call them back, there was no response. I quickly checked the flight tickets. They were supposed to be on the nearest flight, FV 2164, which had been delayed to the morning of the 20th. I had called them in the early hours of the 19th. So if everything had gone smoothly, they should have almost arrived by now. But if it's now scheduled for the morning of the 20th, that means they would arrive in the early hours of the 21st, right in time for the cold disaster. A chill ran through me as I frantically started calling them one after another. Here is the translation. I had no idea what they were up to since they weren't answering their phones at all. It wasn't until the early morning of the 20th that my mom finally sent me a message. "We're about to board the plane. Don't worry, your dad lost his phone. And mine is running out of battery, so I'll stop here. Wait for us at the airport." I was on the verge of tears. The good news was that, from what I remembered, the cold disaster was supposed to strike at midnight, so their flight wouldn't be affected. The bad news was that they might not even finish collecting their luggage before the disaster hit. Even though the temperature on the first day wouldn't drop too low, it was expected to reach about -20 degrees Celsius. They were coming back from Thailand and likely didn't even have coats. I doubted they could withstand the cold for long. I had to go to the airport early to wait for them and head straight home as soon as I picked them up, or else, the thought of the nightmare scenario I had dreamt of sent chills through my body. On the last day, I bought a lot of meat products. Pork, beef, lamb, chicken, fish, and other seafood filled my home's fridge and freezer. The excess I couldn't fit was thrown into the storage room, where I turned the air conditioning to the lowest setting. It should keep for a while. After stocking up on all the essentials, I converted all my remaining money into coal and firewood, storing them in my study. After the extreme cold hit, humanity completely lost its order, and water and electricity were soon cut off. The only way to stay warm was the most primitive method, starting a fire. I wasn't sure how long my preparations would last, but I had done my best. Everything ready, I drove to the airport to wait for their flight to land. Night fell quickly, and I sat in the airport chair wrapped in two thick down jackets, wide-eyed and sleepless. Despite it being late, the airport was bustling with people. The lights shone brightly everywhere, and an LED screen displayed an advertisement featuring a popular actress smiling as she promoted a hair care product. Passers-by with their luggage, and many travel groups gathered together, talking loudly, with a guide waving a small red flag, instructing them to check in their bags. They seemed to be on a trip, their faces filled with happiness and anticipation. Watching them, I felt a mix of emotions. I had posted many warning posts online, but fearing accusations of spreading rumors, I had been somewhat vague. I didn't know if it would make any difference, but if even one person survived because of my warning, it would be worth it. The large clock in the airport ticked by, each movement making me unspeakably nervous. I was both afraid of the extreme cold arriving and terrified it might not. I watched the time go by minute. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Finally, at 11:40, the flight information began to be announced. A sweet voice rang out. "Thong Airlines Flight FV 2164 has arrived at Q City International Airport." I had sent countless messages earlier, asking my parents to come out immediately without their luggage after landing, but I wasn't sure if they had seen them. The bright incandescent lights coldly lit the flight tower, and through the window, I could see people outside in shorts and t-shirts, faces dripping with sweat. A young girl's makeup was ruined by sweat as she touched it up with a compact by the roadside. Some middle-aged men simply lifted their shirts to expose their bellies to cool down. Today was indeed very hot, reaching a high of 46 degrees Celsius, and it felt even hotter, to the point where an egg could cook on the pavement in no time. It was the hottest day of the summer, but experts claimed this summer would be the coolest in the next 100 years, meaning every year hereafter would be hotter than this one. Only I knew that wouldn't be possible. The dream hadn't shown how long the extreme cold lasted because I had frozen to death just a few days after it began. That absolute low temperature reminded me of the great ice ages in Earth's history, when some places reportedly reached an average temperature of -50 degrees Celsius, and the whole Earth was frozen, with only a few creatures living near volcanoes or in unfrozen waters surviving. I didn't know how long this bout of extreme cold would last, but I knew it wouldn't end soon. I had to prepare for a long-term battle against the cold, thank heaven. This time my parents listened for once and rushed over without their luggage. My dad, with his big belly, was wearing a floral shirt and a straw hat bought from a tourist spot, waving at me. My mom was wearing sunglasses at night, wearing a floral dress. She remembered to touch up her lipstick. Following behind them was Aunt Sarah, who had also traveled to Thailand with them. My mom had mentioned that Aunt Sarah had felt unwell due to the change in environment and had come back with them. Over here, I waved frantically at them, constantly glancing back at the time displayed above the terminal, 11:57. In 3 minutes, this place would turn into a frozen hell. My parents hurried along with the crowd, and my mom, visibly anxious, gave me a smack and complained, "What's the rush? What happened?" I didn't have the patience to explain. I just grabbed her and started to walk away, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw Aunt Sarah standing nearby. She was an old friend of my mom's, though a bit too showy for my taste, which I didn't particularly like, but at that moment, I couldn't help but feel a pang of compassion and asked, "Aunt Sarah, why don't you come with us?" Aunt Sarah gave me a glance and smiled, gracefully touching her hair as she replied, "Delilah, you go ahead, I'm waiting for my daughter and son-in-law to pick me up. They're already on their way." I knew Aunt Sarah's daughter had married a wealthy man who drove a Maybach, which Aunt Sarah loved because it made her feel prestigious. Persuading a stubborn soul can be impossible. I wasn't fond of Aunt Sarah, who always subtly compared her daughter to me, so I nodded, grabbed my parents, and ran forward. I glanced at the time again, 11:59. People around were complaining about the heat. Despite it nearing midnight, the temperature was rising. Even the airport's air conditioning was ineffective against the stifling heat, and it felt as though the air had stopped circulating. My dad ran beside me, sweating profusely and gasping, "Let's take a break. It's damn hot, hotter than in Thailand." My mom's freshly applied makeup had streaked due to the sweat. As she wiped her sweat, she grumbled, "Exactly, it's like a steam room. I feel like I'm being cooked." I looked at her. "It'll cool down soon." Boom, it's now midnight sharp. The terminal began announcing the time, and at the sound of the electronic tone, my heart skipped a beat as I turned to look outside. A cold gust swirled outside, and suddenly snowflakes began to fall against the dark sky, illuminated into bizarre colors by the neon lights. At first, a few snowflakes melted quickly due to the high temperature. Then, a blanket of snow began to fall, quickly fogging up the glass with a layer of white vapor. Someone nearby exclaimed, "Holy shit, is it snowing?" Snow in August, what kind of injustice is this? A young man excitedly started recording with his phone. People crowded at the windows, buzzing with excitement as they discussed the bizarre weather. No one was aware of the impending doom. The heavy snow roared down from the sky like a divine punishment, and the oblivious humans were about to be punished. It seemed like in an instant, the temperature dropped. My mom rubbed her arms, where goosebumps had formed, puzzled. "Why does it suddenly feel chilly? Are you guys cold?" I pursed my lips, pulled out down jackets from my bag, and handed them to them, saying firmly, "If we don't leave now, we might not be able to at all." Just as we stepped out of the terminal, a blast of cold air hit us, chilling me to the bone. The snowflakes were large, whipped up by the wind into a swirling dance. Soon, a thin layer of snow had accumulated on the ground, even at this late hour. The airport road was bustling with pedestrians and taxis waiting for fares, but now, everyone was in a panic. Those with cars hurried into them, and those without ran back towards the airport. My dad jumped into the car, panicking, "What the hell is going on? Why did it suddenly start snowing?" I glanced at the temperature gauge, -5 degrees. In just 5 minutes, the temperature had plummeted by more than 40 degrees. And this was just the beginning. I started the car and turned on the heater, flooring the accelerator onto the road. The drastic change in temperature had my mom shivering uncontrollably, her breath visible as white puffs as she spoke. "What on earth is going on? It's never this cold here in winter." I glanced at their panicked expressions in the rearview mirror and briefly explained what had happened over the past few days, including the 3 strange dreams and the supplies I had hoarded. My parents were silent for a long time after hearing this. It took a while before I heard them swallow. What I told them sounded like a tall tale, but now, with the howling blizzard outside, it strangely seemed believable. So, my mom's voice was a bit hoarse. What do we do now? She looked anxiously at my dad. Minus 40 degrees Celsius. Isn't that almost like the Antarctic? Can we survive this? My mom is really just a housewife. She seems tough on a regular day, but loses her nerve in real crises. I fiercely turned the steering wheel and exited the highway, forcing myself to stay calm. Don't worry, we're prepared. We just need to hold on. We can make it through. The car's heater was slowly becoming less effective due to the dropping temperatures outside. In less than 20 minutes, the temperature had fallen another 10 degrees, and it was now nearly minus 20 degrees Celsius. Our city is by the sea. Known for mild winters and cool summers, we've never seen anything like this. The car quickly fogged up, and I had to turn on the defroster, but the snow was falling too heavily. Everything outside was a blur of fog, and the high-beam headlights turned the densely packed snowflakes yellow, the light unable to penetrate through. I thought we would make it home smoothly, but from afar, I saw a long line at the highway exit. The low visibility had caused a traffic jam, every vehicle stuck together, with drivers in light clothing shivering as they ran towards the toll booths. The line was so long, it seemed endless. I slammed the steering wheel in frustration. This was unexpected. I hadn't anticipated any issues exiting the highway, and now we were completely stuck, unable to move forward or backward. The sharp sounds of horns honking were incessant, many drivers expressing their anger, but no one dared to open their car doors and run out. It happened so suddenly. Almost everyone was in short sleeves, and if they left their cars now, they wouldn't survive long. The only chance of survival was inside the cars. With the heaters on, the car lights were bright everywhere, and I helplessly hugged my arms and sighed. Let's just wait, it should clear up soon. I turned the heater to maximum, and the seat warmers were on too. My parents warmed up and hesitantly nodded. Things were far from as optimistic as I had hoped. An hour later, the traffic was still jammed, and a long line had formed behind us, with car lights stretching into the unseen distance. The first to run out of power were the electric cars. A mother holding her child trembled as she got out of her car. Having dismantled the seat cushion to wrap around her child, she cried as she knocked on the window of the car next to her. The car's out of power. Please let us in, or my child will freeze to death. Her tears froze in the cold wind and fell to the ground. The driver of the adjacent car, also a woman, kindly opened her door and let her in. The grateful woman tearfully thanked her and got into the car with her child. My mom looked solemn and sighed. This is terrible. What on earth is happening? I hope Delilah's dream isn't true, otherwise. My dad frowned and rubbed his hands together. As the night deepened, the sound of horns had greatly diminished. Everyone was trying to conserve fuel and stay warm. Suddenly, my mom's stomach growled from the back seat. She blushed and said, I wish I hadn't complained about the airplane food being bad. Delilah, do we have anything to eat in the car? Before we left, I had packed some food in the car, never imagining we'd actually need it. I reached under the co-driver's seat and handed my mom 3 boxes of self-heating rice. It's not much, but it'll have to do. Everything else is at home. My mom poured mineral water into the self-heating pot and sealed it. Setting it aside, the heating pack quickly warmed up, and the water started to boil, releasing the scent of sausage oil from the cracks in the box. I had never been interested in self-heating rice meals before. How could these instant products ever compare to fresh food? However, as soon as the box was opened, the wafting aroma made my stomach churn and tighten with hunger. Saliva was continuously secreted. I then remembered that I had been so busy all day that I hadn't eaten anything. The sausage was cut into small pieces, glistening with layers of fat and lean. Biting into it, the slightly hard cured meat, mixed with fat, burst into flavors in my mouth. The rice was steamed to soft perfection, thoroughly mingling with the sauce and the aroma of the sausage. A big mouthful left nothing but satisfaction, soothing my rumbling stomach. My mom was truly hungry, wolfing down her meal and exclaimed, This is the first time I found self-heating rice this delicious. I quickly finished the remaining rice, packed up, and sealed everything tightly in a plastic bag, tucking it under the seat. After eating, I felt a bit sleepy and leaned back in the seat, struggling to keep my eyes open. Time ticked by, and the surroundings grew busier. Numerous drivers whose cars had stalled came out seeking help. Some were fortunate to find kind souls to take them in, while others helplessly tapped on every car window like headless flies. After what felt like an eternity, the voice of a staff member came through the loudspeaker. the temperature has dropped sharply. Please keep warm, maintain order, and proceed in an orderly manner. The temperature has dropped sharply. Please keep warm, maintain order, and proceed in an orderly manner. I opened my eyes to see the cars ahead slowly moving. I quickly perked up and pressed on the accelerator to keep up. It's better than I expected. I tried to sound cheerful, but realized my parents behind me were silent. They were busy wiping the fog from the rear window, staring silently at the back. Looking through the rearview mirror, a chill ran down my spine, feeling as though I was plunging into an icy cave. In the stream of cars behind, a few people lay rigid on the ground, their uncovered limbs pale against the snow, almost blending in with their surroundings. These were people whose cars had stalled, and who hadn't found anyone willing to take them in. Now, they had frozen to death in the snow. I took a quick glance. There were at least 7 or 8 bodies lying in the snow, and more too far to see clearly. So, how many had frozen to death inside their cars? How many more? I looked around. Some cars hadn't moved at all, unresponsive to any honking, and the cars behind had no choice but to drive around them. These drivers. My heart sank, and I gripped the steering wheel tighter. On the first day of severe cold, so many had died. It was the first time I faced this harsh reality, but there was no time to think further. The cars ahead had started moving, and I shook my head to clear it and accelerated off the highway. The city's nightlife had abruptly hit the pause button. The streets, usually bustling with people enjoying skewers and beer, were now completely deserted. All that remained was a dead silence. My mom wiped the fog from the window and leaned worriedly against my dad. We weren't too far from the airport, and after half an hour's drive, we finally arrived. The supermarket in our neighborhood was packed with people in down jackets, everyone wearing hats and scarves, with only their eyes visible. Shall we also buy some? My mom hesitated as she looked out the window. I'm not sure how long the supplies Delilah bought will last. Let's stock up. In this cold, they won't spoil. My dad nodded, opened the car door, and got out. The supermarket, usually spacious with 2 floors, was now overwhelmed with people, all crammed together, loudly calling out. My mom led the charge into the crowd, no longer picky about which snacks, like chicken or mushroom instant noodles, were less tasty. Whatever was available, she stuffed it all into the basket. Especially popular were chili and alcohol. By the time we got there, not much chili sauce or alcohol was left on the shelves. My mom simply signaled for my dad to clear out whatever was left. When we came back, the supermarket had just opened. However, there were already a lot of people around, and I could only get the leftovers on the shelves. The crowd outside kept growing, but the supermarket was already out of stock. Apart from some daily necessities, all the shelves were empty. An elderly lady began to complain loudly. What are we supposed to buy if you've taken everything? Don't you have any decency? But everyone was looking out for themselves, and no one paid her any attention. There was also a stylish young couple. The girl looked worried. What will we do without food? The boy was indifferent. If there's none, there's none. They're just a bunch of people who haven't seen the world. It's just abnormal weather. We still have instant noodles at home. Let's just go back and eat those. After finally squeezing through the crowd, my mother's hair was all disheveled, but she was still happy, proudly pointing at the jar of Lao Gan Ma chili sauce in her basket. If I hadn't been quick, another lady would have grabbed it. The cold wind was getting stronger, and the snowflakes were as big as half a finger. Soon, a layer of white frost formed on our eyelashes. Our faces stung from the cold as we finally made it into the building's entrance. The hallway was icy cold, devoid of any warmth, but at least there was no wind. As we went upstairs, we ran into a few neighbors. Everyone was carrying groceries, some with cabbages, others with radishes, and some with a good amount of instant food. Only the woman from upstairs was empty-handed, probably because she came down too late. She didn't manage to grab anything and looked enviously at our bags. My husband said this weather will clear up in a couple of days. Be careful, you might buy too much and it'll just rot at home. Everyone tacitly ignored her. An elderly lady downstairs sighed. What's going on with this weather? It's so cold. My son and his wife can't make it back from their company. Yeah, the buses and subways have stopped, and you can't even hail a taxi. It was so hot yesterday, and the news didn't say when this will end. Another woman complained, rubbing her red, frozen hands. I had taken all our winter clothes back to my hometown, and it took me forever to find a jacket. I would have frozen to death otherwise. The elderly lady looked enviously at my mom. "You're lucky, your whole family is at home, no need to worry about your kids." My mom comforted her briefly before we got off the elevator. Our home was as cold as an ice cellar, and the meat I had bought was frozen solid in the storage room. Fortunately, the electricity hadn't gone out yet. I quickly turned on all the air conditioners outside. And it took a while before it finally warmed up. I sealed every nook and cranny of the doors and windows, leaving only 2 windows in the living room open for ventilation, and added thick layers of insulation around them. The electric heater was also turned on, emitting a warm, orange glow. After a while, my mom's face finally regained some color. She took off her down jacket and turned on the TV. The news was unexpectedly calm, still showing yesterday's broadcast with no hint of the cold disaster. Only an emergency broadcast reminded residents to prepare for the unusual temperatures and to keep warm. After all, it had only been half a day, but social media was already in an uproar. I opened my phone, and the hashtag temperature drop topic had skyrocketed to the top of the trending list. Everyone was heatedly discussing it. "Suddenly it's freezing here. It's now minus 20 degrees Celsius at home. What's going on?" Same in Beijing. I was overheating before bed, and they even issued a heat wave warning. But damn it, I woke up freezing in the middle of the night. The windows are all iced up, damn, and the snow's already up to my ankles. Am I still dreaming? I frowned. Clearly, everyone hadn't yet grasped the severity of the situation and were still jokingly discussing it. Even someone in my circle had foolishly gone out to make a video in the snow, lying down and moving their limbs joyfully, thoroughly enjoying themselves. I'm not a saint, but I wasn't really aiming to be a standout. But after hesitating a bit, I still posted a message on YouTube. "Looks like the end of the world is upon us. Better start hoarding some supplies." Hashtag temperature drop. Because I included a hashtag, my post quickly gathered a few comments. "Are you a primary school kid, watching too many movies to think about hoarding? It's just abnormal weather. Why create panic? I also feel like it's the end of the world. It's terrifying. Still not done hoarding salt from the earthquake scare, are you? Hoard all you want then." I sighed and turned off my phone. "Go rest a bit more. You didn't sleep well last night either," I said to my dad, who was frowning and smoking by the window. "Conserve your energy. The tough times are still ahead." Once I lay down in bed, the overwhelming exhaustion I had suppressed surged through me. For the past 3 days, I had been racing against time without sleep, and now, finally, things seemed to have settled a bit. Now, I'm somewhat grateful that my dad is an orphan, and that my grandparents died early and we don't have many relatives. Otherwise, I'd have a whole family to worry about. I slept soundly, and in my dream, it felt like I plunged into an icy sea. The cold, like a monster with tentacles, clung to me, dragging me deeper into the abyss. I was awakened by my mom's scream. I threw off the blanket and ran out, only to find my parents standing by the window, my mom covering her mouth, and my dad with a solemn expression. I approached and noticed the snow outside had lessened a bit, but the temperature was still dropping. Overnight, the entire world seemed to have frozen over. Everywhere you looked was blanketed in white. Initially, the property management braved the cold to clear the snow, but it was too cold, and they soon gave up. Our apartment is on the edge of the building, allowing us to see the streets. There were quite a few people, all huddled in front of the supermarket waiting for it to open, shivering yet reluctant to go home. Overnight, everyone realized that this cold wave had hit the entire world. This was no longer just a temporary weather anomaly. My dad wrapped his arms around my mom's shoulders, pulling her away from the window, and whispered reassuringly, "Don't worry, we have plenty of supplies. We'll be fine." My mom nodded, her eyes red. Meanwhile, a broadcaster's voice carried over. The morning news was reporting on the temperature drop, not just here, but in the United States, Russia, Japan, Germany, India, Mexico, Australia. The entire world was experiencing this cooling. The Statue of Liberty's torch was covered with thick snow, the deserts around the pyramids were blanketed in white, and even the waters near the vacation paradise of the Maldives had frozen, with the waves permanently captured in their final crash. A bald expert with glasses explained to the camera that this was merely a cold snap caused by a solar flare, and it would soon pass, urging the public not to panic. I scoffed and went to prepare lunch. In this freezing weather, I suddenly craved a steaming hot pot. Luckily, we had ready-made broth and dipping sauces, and I'd bought plenty before. My mom had managed to grab a few boxes of sliced meat, and I added some seafood, vegetables, and meatballs. Now, The temperature in our storage room felt like spring compared to outside, so I simply unplugged the refrigerator. In times like these, one should live a little better, not knowing what tomorrow might bring. Perhaps a warm and comforting hot pot could give us more courage to face the unknown disasters. The mildly spicy butter base slowly melted in the hot water, soon boiling and releasing a spicy aroma. I added some sliced green onions and ginger to ward off the cold, and once the water boiled, I put in the meat. The frosted slices softened quickly in the boiling water, losing their bright red color as they bobbed in the spicy broth. The steam from the hot pot instantly cleared the worry from my mom's face, and she eagerly began fishing out the meat to eat. The supermarket downstairs is quite upscale, offering good quality meats that, once soaked in the mildly spicy soup and rolled in a dipping sauce mixed with sesame oil, garlic, chili, cilantro, and green onions, became enveloped in a thick, flavorful coating. Biting into the tender beef mixed with the spicy broth and rich sauce was a burst of flavors. The tripe left only tenderness and crunchiness behind. The dip isn't necessary, the base alone with its spicy aroma is enough. With a gentle bite, the juicy broth bursts forth. The power hasn't gone out yet, but it's so cold outside that our home's air conditioning barely makes a difference. We all get up wrapped in thick flannel pajamas. A bite of hot pot sends a fiery heat coursing through my body, making me sweat. My dad, grinning, pulled out a bottle of chilled beer from one of the fridges. The fridge is more like an insulated box now. If this beer were outside, it would probably explode from the freeze. Who's up for some hot pot noodles? I asked, pulling out a box of hand-pulled noodles from the fridge. That's quite lavish, isn't it? My mom glanced at me, noticing the meat, seafood, and tripe I'd taken out, along with the noodles. Just enjoy your meal, my dad said, adding some shrimp to her bowl. We don't know how long we can live like this. Better eat up while we can. My mom scoffed and lifted her bowl. Add some noodles for me too. Hot pot noodles, the soul of the hot pot, without which the meal feels incomplete. The originally bland noodles took on a rich flavor in the broth that had stewed meat and seafood, each strand tinged with a slight red hue, mixed with some leafy greens. It brought an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. I burped contentedly and couldn't bother to clear the dishes, slumping in my chair to scroll through my phone. If I remember correctly, in a few days we'll completely lose water and power, not to mention the internet. I need to check what's happening outside now. The news has updated the number of deaths worldwide due to this cold snap. In the US, 48, 713 people. In Russia, 54, 186. In the UK, 13, 652. Even Singapore has seen 560 deaths due to the freeze. Most of these were homeless, utterly defenseless against the sudden disaster. And this is just the beginning. The death toll is expected to skyrocket. In the face of such natural disasters, humanity is as fragile as ants. Opening my social media, the joking atmosphere of yesterday has completely vanished. Nearly everyone is discussing this sudden drop in temperature. My house is below freezing. The heater can't keep up. How long is this cold going to last? Some experts say it's temporary, but I see zero-cost shopping starting in the US. It's a global disaster. The ice age is here. Is this the end for humanity? Messages in the group chat are flooding in so fast I can barely read them. Everyone is uniformly stocking up on supplies, although the so-called experts claim this is just temporary. Almost every supermarket has been ransacked. A mother in the group is asking for help. I'm running out of baby formula at home. Does anyone have any spare? Her message quickly gets buried, with no one responding. In the face of disaster, it seems unfair to blame human selfishness. I sighed. Clearly, no one believes this cooling is just a temporary climate anomaly caused by a solar flare, as the experts have said, but they have no idea about the disaster that is about to unfold. The temperature of -20 degrees will only last a couple of days before it drops even further, and then, people without water or power will have no means to survive. In just 3 days, the global population will have decreased by a third. The cold hell has begun. As expected, on the third night, I was awoken by the severe cold. In my dream, I seemed to be encased in ice, every pore of my body radiating cold, making me curl up and shiver. When I woke up, I realized just how astonishingly cold it was inside the house. The cold air was dense, laying heavy on the floor, making even breathing feel sluggish. I really felt like I was sleeping in an ice cellar. Even though I was wearing thick pajamas, my whole body was icy. I exhaled sharply and was surprised to see my breath turn white. My heart skipped a beat, and I rushed to check the air conditioner. As expected, the screen was completely black. It had stopped working. On the third day of the extreme cold, our power went out. My parents also woke up from the cold, my mom rubbing her hands together, her speech visible in puffs of white breath. "It's so cold. Who turned off the heating?" I glanced at the thermometer on the wall, -34 degrees. And that's with thermal insulation installed in our home, which means the temperature outside has dropped even further. It must have already reached below -40 degrees. My father's face began to look grim as he pressed the light switch in the room. There was no response. The hall was plunged into darkness, with only the pale and weak light from the moon shining on the snow outside the window. "The power's out," my father said seriously. "Delilah, didn't you install a wood stove? I'll get some firewood, and tonight we'll sleep around the stove, to prepare for power outages." I had both a coal stove and a wood stove installed, however. Since the coal stove had poor ventilation and was prone to causing poisoning, the wood stove was the preferred choice. My father stacked a bundle of firewood in the stove and lit it. We wrapped ourselves in sleeping bags and slept on the carpet next to it. In the darkness, the orange flames dispelled the cold, and my frozen hands and feet slowly regained sensation after initially stinging. The wood crackled as it burned, occasionally sending sparks flying into the air before they extinguished. Although it wasn't as warm as an air conditioner, it was significantly better. Watching the flickering flames and listening to the faint sound of the wood popping, a wave of sleepiness gradually overtook my brain. I closed my eyes. After the power outage, the situation completely spiraled out of control. Residents with battery left on their phones flooded the chat group. "Does anyone have spare clothes? My child is almost freezing to death. Please help us. We've run out of food at home." Willing to pay a high price for food, price negotiable. "There's no water either. The pipes have burst. Can't the property management think of something? If this continues, we'll die of thirst if not from the cold." But there was no property management anymore. The sound of glass shattering came from downstairs. I looked down and was shocked to see people unable to withstand the hunger and cold attacking stores, smashing windows and rushing in to loot and vandalize. My heart pounded as I looked towards the storeroom. I had overlooked this danger before. With so much stored in my home, the consequences could be unimaginable if discovered. Just as I was panicking, there actually came the sound of someone banging on doors in the hallway. My father gestured for me to be silent, picked up a kitchen knife, and stealthily moved towards the door. The banging and heavy footsteps sounded like they were stomping on my heart, with the man's cursing echoing in the closed hallway. Soon, the footsteps approached, and my door was violently struck. "Open up. Do you have any food? Share it with us." Our family looked at each other, silent. We recognized the voice. It was the man from upstairs. Rumor had it he used to be involved with gangs, and after the big gang leader was jailed during a crackdown, he served 2 years and had been unemployed and staying at home since. This man was over 6 feet tall, burly, and covered in tattoos, an intimidating sight. We were no saints. His family had caused us trouble before, and I didn't have that much goodwill. "I know someone's home. You were renovating a few days ago. If you don't open up, I'll break down the door," the man threatened viciously. After receiving no response, he began to ram the door. My heart was in my throat, my grip tightening on the kitchen knife. But the worst didn't happen. Our front door was sturdy enough. After a while, he cursed and moved on to the next house. It seemed the man upstairs must have run out of supplies, or he wouldn't have resorted to trying to steal food. At that moment, everyone's doors were shut tight, and he was unlikely to get any help. I breathed a sigh of relief, my hands sticky and quickly turning cold with sweat. In the following days, we stayed huddled at home. We pulled out all the blankets and piled them on the bed, but even with several layers, our feet were still cold at night. We became more cautious when eating, sealing the doors and windows with tape before eating anything with a scent. An innocent man is guilty when carrying a gem. At this time, human nature is not to be trusted. Order has completely fallen into chaos. Every day, the sound of smashing can be heard from downstairs. And the bodies lying in the snow include not only those frozen to death but also those murdered. The weather is so cold that blood freezes soon after it flows out, turning into blocks of ice blood. The man upstairs has been shouting and banging on doors daily, but no one opens for him. After 3 days of pounding on doors, he was no longer seen. Things have indeed taken a turn for the worse. A month later, Our supply of firewood and coal is nearly depleted, time is running out. And I don't have much money left. The fuel available for purchase is severely limited, despite using it sparingly, it is running out quickly. At night, my mother shivers terribly from the cold, her face pale and bluish. I placed a heating pad on her, but it was no use. In the extreme cold, even the heating pad seemed unable to warm up. We all knew that without finding more fuel, we were going to die. Just when we were at our wits' end, there was a sudden knock at the door. My dad thought it was the man upstairs and cautiously approached, only to find, through the peephole, that it was the property manager. Since the onset of the cold disaster, the property manager hadn't spoken in the group chat, but suddenly he appeared this time. While we were still puzzled, the property manager seemed to understand our wariness. He briefly showed his face to let us see him, then quickly wrapped up thickly again and said in a muffled voice, "Mr. Liu. None of the residents have anything to warm themselves with. We plan to go to the suburban woods to chop some firewood to bring back. Would you like to join us?" He didn't wait for our reply and continued, "The group will gather at the community gate at 10 o'clock. We aim to return before sunset." Saying this, he went on to knock on the next door. There is strength in numbers. The property manager wanted to gather more people, so in case of any issues, they could help each other out. When he knocked on the door upstairs, a woman's shrill voice echoed through the hallway. "Are you insane? Do you know how much we pay in property fees each year? Shouldn't you be chopping wood for us to use? And we're out of food too. Hurry up and bring some. Do you hear me? Or else I'll complain." Believe it or not, the property manager was so amused and angry that he argued with her for a bit, then decided it was pointless and continued on his way. My dad hesitated for a moment, then went back into the room to put on his thickest fur coat and wrapped himself in a down jacket. "I'll go and see, you two wait at home." Saying this, he was about to leave. My mother panicked. "I'll come with you. How much wood can you carry by yourself?" "Delilah can stay and watch the house." I sighed. "Let's go together, gather more, and make fewer trips." Unable to argue with us, the three of us geared up and left the house. All we had at home were kitchen and chopping knives. Before leaving, I thought about it and tucked a dagger into my chest. When we reached downstairs, quite a few people had already gathered, mostly young people. There were some elderly as well, but very few. Most elderly people couldn't survive such low temperatures, and whether they could make it back safely was uncertain. No one would take the risk if they weren't desperate. My gaze casually drifted to the side, then suddenly stiffened. Bodies lying on the ground had become somewhat normal, and everyone just tried to keep their distance. But the female corpse not far away was very familiar. She was the lady who ran the spicy hot pot restaurant next door. In her early years, she had abandoned her husband and child to elope here with her lover, only to find out her lover was already married. After being abandoned, she had no face to return and ended up setting up a stall in the community, which gradually grew into a storefront. She was wrapped up in thick clothes, her face nearly as white as the snow, eyes open, curled up in a street corner. Death had not closed her eyes. A shiver ran through my heart. She was someone I knew, having seen her just recently. Her lips painted a bold red, exuding warmth and enthusiasm. Now, she lay silently frozen to death in a corner, pale and cold. I had no idea why she died here, whether she couldn't bear the cold inside and went out looking for a solution or for some other reason. But I felt an overwhelming sense of suffocation. I knew that deaths like hers were now common all around the world. There was no time to think further. The property manager, using a loudspeaker, announced, "Residents, we face a disaster and must unite to survive. We all know we won't last long in this cold. There's a forest in the east where we can chop some wood for heating. Let's set out now and make sure we return before sunset." No one responded. Very few had enough food stored at home. Half a month was about the survival limit for most households. Now, everyone was both cold and hungry, driven solely by the will to live. The biting wind swept the snow against our faces, first causing unbearable stinging, then numbness, and eventually a loss of sensation. It was incredibly dangerous. The temperature outside had dropped to below -50 degrees Celsius. Exposed skin would start to necrotize within minutes in these conditions, after walking for what felt like an eternity. A girl next to me suddenly screamed. I turned and saw she was in a panic. Her ears, which she hadn't realized were exposed, had probably numbed from the intense cold and had now fallen off without her feeling them. Yet, there was no blood. Her ears lay quietly on the ground as she cried out in horror, "Help me, My ears have fallen off. Take me to the hospital, but no one paid her any attention. Hospitals had long been closed, and there were no doctors available to reattach her ears, not to mention, everyone was a stranger to each other now, only concerned with gathering enough firewood from the little forest to keep warm. The continuous oppression, combined with the shock of this scene, made the girl let out a terrible scream and stagger towards the snowy distance. No one stopped her. Knowing well that leaving the group in this weather meant certain death, an older woman nearby sighed softly. The snowstorm intensified, and even at noon, the sky was a dull gray, filled with swirling snowflakes. I never felt such hardship in my life, moving forward mechanically, driven by sheer willpower. All vehicles were inoperable, and the little remaining fuel had been used for heating our homes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to walk this strenuously. Just as I was about to give up, the property manager at the front, his voice tinged with excitement, announced, "We're here, let's chop as much as we can to minimize our trips outside." Without needing further encouragement, everyone visibly perked up. The previously lifeless crowd dispersed, rushing into the snow-covered woods. My father took out a kitchen knife and began chopping at the branches vigorously. Now, wet or dry, any wood that could burn was good enough. In an instant, the small forest was teeming with people, each frantically wielding tools to cut down the trees. When we left, I carried a basket on my back and brought a bundle of bed sheets twisted into a rope. My parents chopped at the front while I collected what they cut. With many hands, the basket on my back quickly filled up, and the rest we tied with the rope and strapped to my mother. Everyone's focus was on the trees in front of them. I didn't need to chop wood, so I looked around and was drawn to a small mound of snow nearby. What caught my attention wasn't the snow mound itself, but a small patch of gray visible at the edge, covered by the snow and hard to discern. I glanced around to see if anyone noticed, then stealthily ran over and reached into the snow, pulling out a frozen, stiff wild rabbit. It really was a rabbit. I had seen rabbits here before while walking. They were incredibly fast, zipping past and darting into the woods. Now, with the temperatures so low, the wildlife too had mostly perished. I discreetly shielded the rabbit from view with my body and quickly tucked it into the basket on my back, covering it with a thick layer of firewood. We still had some food at home, but no one could say for sure how long it would last. At such times, no one would complain about having too many supplies. Just as I was about to stand up, I looked up alertly, only to see a woman wrapped in furs watching me. My heart sank. But she didn't speak. Instead, she just nodded at me and walked away. I was surprised but soon recognized her. She was our neighbor from downstairs. She had given us celebratory cakes when her daughter turned 1 month old, and she always greeted us when we saw each other. She had seen me find the rabbit but didn't shout or come over to ask for a share. Mixed feelings surged in my heart. I decided to cook the rabbit in the evening and bring her a bowl. If others show kindness, I cannot pretend not to see it. As the sun moved westward, the property manager checked the sky and called out to us loudly, "We need to hurry, or it'll be dark when we return, and we'll all freeze to death." Though many were reluctant, they couldn't hold out any longer and began to gather their firewood to leave. Only a few continued chopping more wood, seemingly not hearing and continuing to swing their axes. The property manager sighed silently but said nothing more, leading us back. The journey home felt even longer. It was afternoon, and the temperature kept dropping. However, with the hope of warmth on our backs, everyone was full of energy, even moving faster than when we had arrived. Everyone seemed to have a renewed hope for life, a glint of light flashing in their eyes. I quickened my pace and entered the building. The howling wind was left behind as I stepped into the icy, still stairwell, thankfully now without wind. The golden light of the setting sun was torn by the wind and snow, leaving only dim embers that sparsely filtered through the windows. I shook the ice from my hair, but at the moment I looked up, I froze. In the dimly lit stairwell, a distorted, elongated shadow appeared around the corner near my home. The shadow held a knife, its blade drawn out long. I signaled my parents behind me, pointing at the shadow. My dad understood, quickly setting down his bundle of firewood and drawing the kitchen knife from behind him, stealthily moving toward the shadow. The shadow moved slightly upon hearing the sound. "Damn you," my dad shouted as he lunged up the stairs, slashing at the shadow with the knife. The woman from upstairs stumbled out from the shadows, narrowly dodging my dad's knife. In her panic, she dropped her watermelon knife with a clang to the floor. She clenched her teeth, about to pick up the knife, but my mom swiftly kicked it away. Sure enough, The woman upstairs didn't want to go out and suffer chopping wood and had instead hidden by our door, planning to steal what was already there. In times like these, stealing supplies was no different from murder, especially with her wielding such a long knife. The woman's expression was fierce as she screamed and lunged at me. "Have you no heart? My whole family is freezing to death. My husband is sick. Why can't you share your firewood with us?" "Give me the firewood," I scoffed coldly. She seemed to think this was just like before the apocalypse, accustomed to her disruptive antics. But now, no one would indulge her any longer. I dodged quickly, and the woman, unable to stop her momentum, stumbled forward. I discreetly stuck out a foot. She tripped and rolled down the stairs, her scream abruptly stopping. The watermelon knife, which my mom had kicked away, lodged in the railing of the corridor, its tip emerging from her chest, darkening her clothes with blood. The woman stared in disbelief, her lips trembling. You actually dare to kill, get me, to the hospital." With a blank expression, I replied, "We were acting in self-defense. Moreover, who killed you? You had this coming." The woman tried to speak again but couldn't catch her breath. Her eyes were wide open, lifeless. When adrenaline was pumping, I didn't feel much, but now that she was dead, my parents and I felt an indescribable sense of unease. We are all law-abiding citizens and have never broken the law, yet, at that moment, we were facing a corpse. Even though she didn't die by our hands, it was impossible to say we were completely uninvolved. But it was too cold, the temperature no longer allowed us to stand idly by. My father sighed and hurried us indoors. Once home, we put the last few pieces of coal into the stove to warm our hands. The melting snow dripped onto the ground, freezing again. The wood we chopped was also placed in front of the stove to dry, ready to be used for burning at night. This trip outside nearly froze us all, especially my mother, who couldn't stop shivering, and it took her a long time to regain feeling in her hands. As the sun set, the sky gradually darkened, and the darkness enveloped the horizon. The nightlife in Q City was usually bustling. At this time, lights would typically light up the surroundings, and the streets would be busy with traffic. But now, all I could see was darkness, and outside, besides the howling cold wind, there was only dead silence. Seeing my parents feeling down, I emptied out the firewood and pulled out a rabbit from the basket, cheerfully saying, "Look what I've found. I just picked it up under a tree." My mother's eyes lit up suddenly. She couldn't care less about warming her hands anymore, and grabbed the rabbit from me with a big smile. "A rabbit? Oh, our Delilah is really a little lucky star. So many people didn't see it, but you found it." My father also laughed. "I'll get it ready. We've been eating cold meals for days. Let's have something hot tonight." My father, being from Sichuan, is an expert at making spicy rabbit. He used to prepare a jar of it for me to take to school when I was in college. Now that it was cold, he set up the firewood in the stove, grabbed a handful of chili, Sichuan pepper, and star anise, and threw them into the pot to release their fragrance before adding the rabbit meat. The sound of water sizzling in oil, a sound I hadn't heard in a long time, suddenly made my eyes tear up. The rabbit meat was quickly stir-fried in the pot, filling the air with a strange and delicious aroma. My stomach grumbled as I constantly swallowed saliva. Soon, the meat was ready. My father served the rabbit in a bowl and poured boiled snow water into a self-heating rice container. The hot rice released steam as the three of us gathered around the table, grabbing pieces of rabbit meat. The rabbit, mixed with chili, was bright red and glossy, fragrant with oil. One bite and the incredible tenderness overwhelmed me, my mouth filled with a spicy and slightly sweet flavor. The rabbit meat was fresh, firm yet tender, and chewy. The sweet and salty sauce it was cooked in added to the flavor, leaving us speechless, our chopsticks almost blurring with speed between the plates. To save on firewood, our family only lit the fire in the evenings, spending the days huddled under blankets in bed for warmth. We only had one warm meal at night, and eventually, even that was gone. Now, having hot, fragrant rice and dishes moved everyone to tears. After dinner, I told my parents about the neighbor downstairs. My mother hesitated for a moment, then packed a bowl of rabbit meat, sealing it tightly with plastic wrap to take downstairs. The woman's body still lay on the stairs, frozen stiff, her complexion ghastly pale. My mother frowned and closed her eyes as she stepped over it. Nowadays, every household was beginning to run out of food, with most having consumed all their stored supplies. My mother carefully ensured that the rabbit meat didn't emit any scent as she knocked on the door, quickly passed it through, and then ran back home. Our neighbor was momentarily stunned, probably not expecting us to share the rabbit meat with her. She nodded gratefully toward us and hurriedly closed the door. The firewood at home was already being used sparingly, but it lasted less than 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, the property management once again gathered the homeowners in the community to go out and chop wood. This time, however, the number of people had halved, leaving only a sparse group of about a dozen. With no food and no electricity, very few people could endure for so long. When the last log of wood was burned, my father made a pot of meat soup. Drinking a spicy bowl of meat soup in the icy and snowy conditions was an unparalleled delight, yet none of the three of us showed any sign of happiness. Everyone knew that after the last log was burned, we would face endless extreme cold. The final moments inevitably arrived. Time seemed to freeze. After an unknown amount of time, even the last pieces of wood were gone. The small woods in the eastern suburbs had been completely chopped down by the survivors, and even the trees and green belts on the streets that could be chopped were gone. Looking around, the entire world had turned a complete silvery white. The temperature had dropped to -60 degrees Celsius. Our family of three had no activities left. Every day, we lay in bed wrapped in several layers of blankets, shivering. We had food, but no fire to cook it. There was snow all around, but it couldn't be melted for drinking. Every day, we ate one frozen bun, which was so solidly frozen it was harder than a rock. Throwing it could probably kill someone. The whole world was frozen. The faint candlelight from the building across the street had disappeared, and even the property management hadn't come by for a long time. It seemed as if everyone else had already died. Only our family of three remained, desperately clinging to life. And we were probably about to die soon. My mom crawled into my blanket, hugged me tightly, and softly sang the lullaby she used to sing to put me to sleep when I was a child. But as she sang, she began to choke up. She patted my back and said with a trembling voice, "Sleep, Delilah, it will be better if you sleep." My dad also came over, wrapped in a blanket, and hugged us, closing his eyes. "In the next life, I'll still be your dad," he said. I laughed through my tears. "It's my turn to take care of you next time, Dad. I'll look after you." He glared at me. "What are you talking about? I'll always be your dad." The 50-something-year-old man suddenly had tears in his eyes. "It's my fault. I couldn't take care of you all. It's okay. We'll look out for each other on the road to the underworld, and we'll reincarnate well next time." I teared up and nodded with a bitter smile. Could it be that even if I live another life, I can't escape this fate? Indeed. Who knows how long the cold disaster will last? We've done our best to endure until now. The pain in my body slowly faded, and I gradually lost feeling in my limbs. Then a strange warmth emerged. I knew it was an illusion caused by hypothermia. When climbers were found frozen to death, some had stripped off their clothes, appearing as if they had died from heat. But that was just an illusion caused by hypothermia. At that moment, I probably felt the same, but the warmth became more distinct. And I frowned, opening my eyes and touched the electric blanket beneath me. It wasn't an illusion. What I touched was genuinely warm. Just as I was puzzled, a faint crackling sound suddenly came from the TV in the living room. We looked at each other. People scrambled out of their beds frantically, rolling and crawling as they rushed outside. It seemed that the electronic components were damaged by the cold, causing the television screen to flicker with dark stripes. It looked broken, yet the voices coming from it brought tears to our eyes. Central Broadcasting Station, Central CRA-Station, fighting the cold disaster is a major event concerning all humanity. CRA, the whole country is mobilizing for rescue efforts. The Central Disaster Response Headquarters has already made rescue arrangements, and rescue teams have begun to assist from all directions. Power has been restored in some areas. CRA, believe in the resilience of life. Pray for the miracles of life. Please hold on. We will never give up. Tears uncontrollably streamed down, freezing into tiny ice bumps as they hit the ground. I sat down on the floor, hugging the television and sobbing loudly. My parents, too, were wiping their tears, embracing each other and crying. It seemed the wiring was damaged by the freeze. The lights flickered dimly, yet outside, countless lights shined brightly, forming a luminous great wall in the night. A faint voice shouted into the darkness, "Is anyone still alive?" Just when we were about to lose hope, a small girl's voice rang through the night sky, "We're still here." Soon after, another voice spoke, "Here, neighbor on the 23rd floor of Building 28. Are you guys okay?" someone cried out. Everyone in the floors above and below me are gone, I'm the only one left. I'm here too. The nation has already started the rescue. Neighbors, hold on, our family of 3 is here. I'm still alive too. Does anyone have any food? We're starving. All these weak voices gathered together, igniting the hope of life. Tears in my voice, I shouted into the night sky. I'm here too. We will definitely survive.